Yeah, man. Cool. So we live.
Yes.
Peace, everyone. Peace, peace, peace. Shabbat
Peace,
shalom.
peace. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Anu.
Yeah, man. I see people in the chat. Peace, Chief Yuya. Peace, Sister Yafe. Peace, Imanaya. Yeah. How you feeling today, Abba Herut? How was your day? How was your strong?
Um, Today was pretty good. I felt really good. Enjoyed the day. Um, couldn't wait to get home so we can have this sacred moment. And it was pretty good. It was pretty good. How about yours?
It was good. I'm actually traveling right now. In the midst of traveling.
Mm.
About time. About to make it a night to remember. All right. Give thanks, Chief. Uh, I can hear that song in my head now. But yeah, man, I'm traveling and I'm in Nassau right now. I'm at my folks' place. Um, so if you hear any noise in the background, it's because they got neighbors. Like houses are real close together in Nassau. It's not like in Freeport or on the island where I'm living in Abaco, where you have space. Like people like right on top of each other. So someone was just having a very loud conversation on the phone. They probably shouldn't have.
Oh,
So now,
wow. Oh.
yeah, and then some cats were arguing. There's a lot going on outside. So willfully, it doesn't cause too much ruckus in the background. But how's everyone doing in the chat? How was your strong? Yeah, man. Speaking of how our strongs went, we started out with Akira Eden, speaking about actually it's kind of been a running theme with
Mm-hmm.
Akira Eden building on Joshua, and that verse is said, "Have I not instructed thee?" You know, and we moving from that onto our study session, where we were getting into basics. That's been a running theme I've seen from the previous two study sessions. With like just taking things slowly from a base level and making sure you get the basics down before you start building on top of it. And and then moving with Aki El Karat again, it's like we were building on Chancellor Williams and the destruction of African civilization, and also again the concepts of all of this research has already been done, plans have already been produced, and all you got to do is implement them, right? So we're seeing a running theme of, all right, just do it. You already
Right.
got all your instructions, so just do it. So I'm thankful for the strong, thankful for all of the builds, and I'm excited for what we're going to be talking about tonight, which is
Yes.
walking in rhythm, right? This was your idea, right? This concept, this topic,
Yeah.
um, you had put it forth, and you were speaking about men and women, pretty much moving in tandem, or not like being unequally yoked.
Mm-hmm. You know, I wanted to, as we started, I was listening to uh, one of Chief's segments, and that was on the magic of mating part one. He's got mating one, part two, and part three,
Right.
and he was just basically explaining, like, it's interesting that when he was sharing is that, when we grow up, we don't really have a concept of what mating is. Like he was saying in that segment that, like, if you ask the average person out there, um, tell me about mating, and so they'll say, well, oh, okay, well, a man, I like a woman likes the man, we get it on, and that's it. And I'm like, okay, and then that's the average. um, that's the average question, the answer you're gonna get from most people. They don't understand that, of course, it's crazy, and of course, raised that way, but it doesn't that doesn't make sense. Okay, why? Because you create a lot of chaos, you create a lot of confusion, you know, and so, but when until I came into Anu, and then there's a process about mating, and then making sure, like Chief mentioned in the segment, about you won't, I'll use an example. You won't ever see a cat and a dog mating. may even try, it's not going to work. Because why? They're not the same. They're not compatible. And so same thing again, like you said, if it's in, I love how he broke down about, the donkey and maybe like a mule, even though they're still a part, they're part of a horse family in the horse
Oh, I
family.
remember that part. Yeah.
I was
He didn't
remembering
even-
when you were saying that. Just because they're in the horse family does not mean that they're compatible in mating. And that's the same thing with us as humanoids. We forget that there is a process. And of course, when you don't mate properly, and again, there is a divine essence in all of this, then you're going to create chaos, which we have today, with our youth, where there's this animosity or so, because if you're not, mating is, again, I love how he paired it out about what mating is. And it's going to come to me, my mind, but my point is,
yeah, we built on this topic too.
yeah.
And one of those points that you were kind of touching on a little, that Chief had spoken to, was if you're only mating from the physical standpoint, then you're only going to make something physical. You're not going to make something divine.
Right.
Or you're not going to create something divine. You're just going to produce a physical body.
Right.
And that's a part of what we were speaking about the last time we presented, and we were talking about fidelity, and the fidelity of moving in connection with the Most High. And even in the family section of the Anu Way, choosing which Elohim that you're going to serve being the most important decision that you're going to make, which is promptly followed by who you mate with, or choosing to start a family more specifically. So that's why I kind of like that these two topics follow each other, because they're like part one and part two, and it's a sequence that's laid out within Anu. You have that connection to the Most High and to your purpose, and then you mate, and that sequence is important because, like Chief was breaking down that segment, you're finding your match, but you can't really know what your match is unless you know exactly what you are, or how many appendages you have,
Right.
or what goes where. It's like you're trying to charge your phone, but you got the input is the wrong thing.
And like you just said, mating is very simple. It's when you do it according to the divine laws, of course. When you put the Most High in that, and that's the part that we growing up in the crazy, I call it the Western mentality, the outside of our community, whereas when you mate without purpose, righteous purpose at that, and it stems from a lot of confusion, and especially with not looking at it as, when you remove the Most High from it, it becomes so chaotic, so it could be out of, like I said, there's out of alignment, and then there's confusion, and you get, again, you two souls, and then when those two souls create, let's say they create another physical being from that. So now you got more added confusion and added weight, and this is where where we get in the world today. And so what I love about, like you said, what we in Anu, it's about the proper sequence of mating is when you and let's go for those who outside of Anu. In Anu, of course, there's a process, and that process is basically like for the woman coming into the space of a man, and his womb space is, a womb coming into that man's space is she receptive to what you're receiving? Is she an alignment? And again, I love it how I'll break it down, especially with enlightenment and transformation. This is one of my favorite quotes, and I had to write it out. I love how Chief broke it down. Enlightenment comes from allowing yourself to journey through the dark shadows of death. the primordial abyss of wisdom's water, for it is the treasures and the mysteries that lie wait in dark that transforms us and propels us to a new enlightened state. One should neither aspire to live in the light nor the dark, but should journey between the two in order to evolve and the overall reality into a self-actualized creation. Knowledge is your light, as wisdom is your darkness. Okay. The bold interplay of the two. The bold interplay of the two in your life leads to my apology, to an enlightened understanding of yourself and the universe you've created. Male is your enlightenment. Female is your transformation. Child is your evolution. Woman, this is the part that I really love when Chief broke it down. Woman, accept the light into your darkness so it may enlighten you. Man, bring your light boldly into the darkness so that it may transform you. So what I like about that version, and for those of you who've been in Anu for a long time, you've heard that statement because Chief would read it out in some old segments Chief did. And so when he just read it out, I'm like, dang, I always was inspired by that, so I wrote it out. And so I always use that as a metaphor, and a meditative form. And what I love about when Chief did that is that I realized that growing up, and this is going to answer the question what we were talking in our topic about walking in rhythm, is that, man, bring your light boldly into the darkness so that it may transform you. Meaning, I remember my moments of I was afraid when I was dating out, outside. And by the way, and I knew we don't date. Okay, so this is my life before I knew. Okay, and so what was going on is that I was afraid I knew that I had knowledge. I knew I had some understanding, but I realized I was afraid when you're dealing with crazy, chaotic energy, crazy women, females, okay, I ain't gonna say retired party, but anyhow, which I do mean that. But anyhow, I realized that they weren't receptive. Going back to what Chief was sharing in the enlightenment and transformation, they weren't receptive. So now, what I learned from this and being in Anu is that one leave that craziness alone, because why? They can't receive you. They're not receptive. Their confusion, their chaotic craziness has allowed them to not be receptive to something that's light. And so what I love about when Chief broke that down was I had to admit that I was afraid that when I was dealing with those crazy females, at the time I knew they were crazy, but I'm like, I was trying to boldly go. I love it when we did something before, boldly go where other men would not go before. I won't do that no more. I won't do that no more because that does not work. That does not work. So meanwhile, I realized I had a lot of resistance. And it's like, dang, why was it? So now when we mate, going back to the question about mating, if you mate with the wrong person that is not in balance and not in harmony with divine light and receiving that light and receiving the Most High's wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, if you're wasting your time, and then sometimes we'll force it anyway. And so what I love about when he broke that down was that when you have the right womb, the right woman, she's going to receive that light. She's not going to resist it. And then, are you living that light? That's another thing. Because if you don't have the light of the Most High in you, she's going to resist it. And then also she's going to test you to see, are you really who you say you are, or are you just making it up? Okay.
Right. And that also builds on what we briefly touched on before we even got on in terms of the rites of passage, right? And the basics too. And Chief actually made a comment alluding to it. So
I was just going to mention that. I saw it in the chat.
So I greet everyone else who came in and I'll read Chief's comment. So we have Softer Gertrude, peace. Peace to you and Sabbath
Peace.
John. Peace, Sabbath John, Softer Gertrude. Um, peace, talk to the speakers. Peace on the radio. Peace, Ras Kush. Peace, Amen Yakira Eden. Peace, Softer Ahava. Peace, Aki Darian. Peace, the Unity Mandala. Welcome, welcome. Shabbat Shalom. Chief said the mating process begins with the individual achieving the required qualities of manhood or womanhood for men and women, respectively. And that's what we were sort of touching on with the Anu Way piece,
Mm-hmm.
rites of passage.
Yeah.
And I have it right here.
Yeah. Which, yeah, I got it right here also.
Right. So the very beginning of that segment, it says we are to show that we are men. We are to show that we are women. So those are like the basics. Like you have to have your base level, requirements before you try to join anything together.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you try to join um, a half-baked product, let's
Mm-hmm.
say,
You can say
or
it, jackass. You can say it because
yeah,
some, you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. Or
yeah,
Chief had also used the word pedigree
yeah,
in that as
yeah.
well.
Pedigree was used. Yeah,
So
exactly.
the type of stock that you come from, it's determined by not only you going through your rites of passage, but having successive lines going through that rites of passage. That way these things become more common sense. Like people like you and I, we would be like first generation immigrants,
Mm-hmm.
into right thinking. Whereas our youth, they're growing up in it. So if a Chinese person comes to the States directly from China, you know, they may be they'd be considered a first generation immigrant. If they have a child over here now, that child, like, they may have issues learning English. They might just move to a Chinese
Right.
populated area and keep speaking Chinese because there's no need to learn English. But they want their children to go to a good school. So their children grow up speaking English, like, no problem. And they still got to learn Chinese, because that's is what their culture is. They're learning English, sure, and what comes along with it. But they're doing that for the sake of survival. It's not necessarily a level up. So there has to be cultural retention there. But if we're doing it to move from ignorance, a place of ignorance, to a place of knowing. So the things that we get um, won't necessarily be on the same level of the things that our children get because they get at a much younger age,
Right.
and they don't have to unlearn like a master process or wrong way of thinking. They could just go into the right,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to having the wrong way of thinking, unless we choose to pair with someone who's still stuck on the wrong way of thinking and insists on teaching that wrong way to our youth.
Right.
Which is where the unequally yoked piece comes in.
Mm-hmm.
But in the rites of passage, it also speaks to um, but it says, how do we know? How do you know what you can do, or how do we know what you can be responsible for in the work of this kingdom if you're not tested? Birthing into the world is passing the threshold of several gates, physical and non-physical. Each opening that you pass through requires your exertion while demonstrating your capacity to define yourself into diverse forms of existing. From thought to germination, embryonic, fetal to infancy, you are showing that you have the will and ability to guard each stage of development. It is the responsibility of the parents of a child to manage the necessary rite of passage experiences for their offspring. Youth should be prepared for their rite of passage from the moment they depart the maternal womb setting, right? And then it goes into how a boy child should be prepared for manhood, and then it also says how a girl child should be prepared for womanhood.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was very critical in terms of just getting the basics down, because everyone I know, as far as I know, skipped that part.
Right.
They went straight into kindergarten.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because, like you just said, in kindergarten, no one goes from kindergarten straight into high school,
Mm-hmm.
or from high school straight into college.
Mm-hmm.
There's a progression.
Right.
That progression, and then you don't make it to the next level until you've accomplished the level before.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of
Right.
course, we can equate that to education, but the same thing, which we there's a rites of passage. There is, and that's why it's interesting for me growing up. I've always desired to know the unknown, and this is considered in the world unknown. Now, it's not unknown to indigenous, to those who have been living the culture for centuries, for years. Because there are inhabitants on the earth that still have this culture intact. It's just unfortunately for us in the West, the Western world, and it's interesting because there was a timing when you and I were talking about this. There was a timing prior to many years ago that, even though it was still dysfunction, but there was a time where there was like I said, the homestead was protected by the man, and then you had the woman, and then you had the children, and then I remember growing up where it was forbidden after a certain time. You could, if the lights, as they say, the street lights come on,
Right.
you had to be in the house.
Mm-hmm.
I remember those moments. I was raised that way. I was raised under restrictions and raised with some level of with some level of balance. Because why? You had to learn something. I see what Chief put in the chat. If
Okay.
two laborers are unequally yoked, they will end up plowing in a circle instead of a straight line. If you yoke a mule with an ox, the ox will sympathize with the mule and end up circling the field. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Like Chief was just sharing, putting in the chat,
Mm-hmm.
is that's why there has to be some level of balance.
Right, because that almost perfectly mirrors having someone who's consciously living a culture,
Mm-hmm.
paired with someone who is determined to live in insanity.
Mm-hmm.
And the person who's living in a righteous culture, them sympathizing with the person who's living in that insanity for the sake of their child, and they just
Mm-hmm.
wind up going in circles
Right.
instead of moving in a straight line. Let's do this. This is the plan. All right, sure. Next thing you know, you turn your back. Well, sometimes children like to eat pizza. I just thought he should have fun like a normal child. And you wind up going in circles. And I love that quote that Chief had said that an elder gave him. I think he said you can't make a racehorse with
a jackass.
With a jackass, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I remember that. I like that what he was saying. And even though Chief was very young when he heard that, but it makes a lot of sense. And so and that's just going back to what we were saying. And also I love it in the rites of passage in the Anu way. It says during the manhood ritual for a boy,
Mm-hmm.
he should be instructed in the secrets of manhood as outlined by the governing Anu community. At the conclusion of his course, he must be tested. If he fails his test, he will be allowed to go through the process once more. The following year, with the new set of candidates for manhood advancement, he may not go through his process alone for his second rite of passage. Once he passes his qualifications, he will assist with the right for all the other young boys subordinate to him as he is able for the remainder of his life. We were sharing about, I was saying that I remember with my Baba during those years of transitioning, or I say rites of passage. because at the time I didn't know it was rites of passage, and I wasn't, and he was preparing me for Anu. And so I remember, and darn it, I forgot to tell you what year it was. It was some years ago. But my point is, I remember it was not that long ago. And I wasn't assertive. For those of you, and I see all of us in Anu, they know who I am. I'm very vocal and stuff, and very, I was always making people laugh. I was always joking and everything, but I was never the assertive type. I was more quiet. I can be honest with you. Now, I know for some of us, you're like, I'm a Herut, quiet. I know. My point is, I wasn't outspoken. Let me just say that. I wasn't outspoken, meaning that I was not, as a man, what is a man to develop into? So my Baba, of course, I was in Nigeria when I went through this, and he knew what I was getting ready to prepare for. I didn't know, and so when I went through it, I was scared. But I trusted. I trusted him. I trusted the process. And I went through it. Yes, it's a moment. I'll never forget what I did when he prepared me for it. Also, I remember, wearing my whites and everything. I think that was like for a year and some time. So I had to prepare for it. But when I went through it afterwards, and then from the moment of where, again, going back to the moment of being, that's when he noticed the part of me that needs to come out, meaning that man that was quiet and timid and too much sympathetic with the feminine energy, and then not being the righteous man. The righteous part was there, but it was like righteousness in the fashion of the way of the Most High. And it wasn't until being an Anu that I was able to achieve. And going through this rites of passage, because actually, to be honest with you, this was going through what we processed. Like I remember when we were talking about the commitment letter and everything. That was for me. I don't know about for anybody else that I knew, but it was for me a little rites of passage, because again, starting from coming into Anu to where we're at now and continuing, it's a rites of passage. Doing this segment, what you and I did not want to be on no. I'm like, Chief, I'm cool. I'll be over here. What do you want me to do? And I'm like, no, Abba, we're going to put you on. I'm like, I don't want to be on no YouTube and do. But again, It's about being prepared and then molding you into that image. And then this is what we have to do. And so walking in rhythm, I'm excited about it, because when I first went to that moment and then going through it and seeing myself, I'm like, dang, did I just say that? I'm like, I'm still got a ways to go. Okay. I'm still little Simba sometimes. All right. I remember when Aki Zach would put up about Lion King. Yes, I love Lion King. Yes. And then Simba was like, roar. I'm like, wow, wow, wow. And you think you would roar like Mufasa.
Right.
Chief was Mufasa. So we like little Simba trying to figure it out. And like we're saying from the past segments, is that the dangers. Don't go over there. You're not ready to go over there yet. Don't worry about it. When that time comes, you'll know. And so going back to what we were explaining about in the rites of passages, you don't worry about it. You're gonna get it. You get it at a certain moment. You're gonna get it, and then when you do, you're gonna look back and you're like, wow. Now I know what Chief was trying to explain, and it's not as easy as you think.
Isn't it funny how when we're told not to do something, we swear we're able to do it?
Yeah.
But when we're pushed to do something that we feel like we can't handle, all of a sudden now, we swear up and down that we're incapable of doing anything at all, ever. When it comes to the wrong things, we're gung-ho. We're really gung-ho. But when it comes to doing the right things, or things that we know are actually going to make us grow, and we're like, you sure about this? You sure? You should, like, it's reversed. Instead of saying, you know what, if you say don't go there, I'm not going to go there.
Right.
Oh, if you say go over here, I know you wouldn't send me there unless you thought I was capable. Instead of having that level of trust and discipleship with the people you say that you're under the teachings of, you would say, your gut reaction is to be like, what? You sure? Me? And I don't know. I think that's a part of the rites of passage as well, because through going through that rite, you're killing that doubting part.
Right.
Because here it is, all of your authority figures, because it's not just your father. You have your certified uncles, your certified grandfathers, you have eldermen in the community. All of these eldermen are telling you, listen, you capable of doing this.
Right.
At this age, you can do this.
Right.
This is how we do it. At this age, you should be able to do this. And you work towards it, and you overcome arduous circumstances, and you realize, okay, even though I don't feel like I can do it, it's a fear. Like that doing quote, like fear is the mind killer.
Right.
Don't give in to fear. But as you move forward through it, you learn how to conquer and kill fear, and you learn how to conceptualize what that fear is and put it in its proper place, as opposed to just reacting to it. You know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I understand. There's uncertainty here, but that's all there is. It's
Mm-hmm.
uncertainty.
And
I'm not gonna conjure up some sort of demon in order to say I can't go over there because that thing I just made is gonna kill me.
right. Right. And it's
Yeah.
interesting what you just shared, because like you just said, okay, we were warned not to go in that forbidden place. We go anyway. So I'm like, okay. There's another part of rites of passage. It's called consequences. You want to go there? You want to do it? Okay. Simba, then we told you not to go over there. But you know what? Okay. Now you have to deal with the consequences. Now, that's another thing we had to go through. So now we were told not to do something. We did it anyway. And so now you're sitting, you're like dumb, because you realize, dang, Chief told us not to go over there. He told us not to eat that gumbo with the shrimp. Yeah, Akizak, I put it in there. That gumbo with the shrimp and that lobster's tails and then and you didn't know there's some lard in there, but you ate it anyway. And now you can't. You sick. You don't feel well.
Mm-hmm.
Chief, what? Chief don't know what he's talking about, right? But because why? He told you not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I just give that as an example. So now if your elders are there and they're guiding you and you don't, because you think you got it, but see, they allow that sometimes just to, and that's with the Most High too. The Most High was like, okay, you want to do it your way, go right ahead. Then when you hit your head and you get shot at, or you go through whatever the challenge may be, whatever it is, now you got to sit with it. Now I can relate to a couple of moments, and it actually was a relationship. As in, I realized I made a mistake. Dang it, I should not have just looked at that booty. I'm like, oh, y'all, I'm sorry. I will not do this again. I'm so sorry. I promise you. And you know what? When you learn your lesson, now some people still bump their heads and keep doing it. See, but I went through some lessons I can still remember, that I realized I went into that forbidden. Mm-hmm. I took that forbidden road.
Yeah,
I took on that
sundress.
Exactly. Oh no, hell no! I ain't put no dress on.
No, I said you were looking at the sundress.
No, I never had
to
go
putting
that.
It on. She was wearing the sundress.
Say it again.
I said she was wearing the sundress. I said,
oh no, she was wearing the pants. No, she was trying to put the sundress on me. That's a whole different story.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm like. No, that ain't gonna. No, that don't work. No, we don't. No, we ain't switching roles. No, hell to the no. But anyhow, I had to learn. The point is, I should not have going back to mating.
Mm-hmm.
I learned my lesson.
Right.
And from that lesson on, and then from that journey and being an Anu, and especially with solutions and everything, and I was able to understand why we were not meant to go over there.
Mm-hmm.
And why? Because one, that's not our culture. Going back to what we were talking about, the rites of passage of mating. Mm-hmm. Then you'll understand why we can't mate with that 85%ers. Mm-hmm. That population. Because why? They're not willing to accept our community. They're not willing to accept our customs and traditions. They're not willing to submit. They're not willing to be receptive. They're not willing to be under our umbrella, as I was shared, what Chief was sharing as well. So now, if they're not willing to understand and be under that, guess what? The hell with them. Now I can say it. The hell with them. That's it. this is what it's going to be. Fine. Don't worry about it. I don't. So, but you, again, I appreciate this moment. And this is why our topic, walking in rhythm. When you're walking in rhythm, when you put the Most High as his, you know, you know what? I love the metaphor of the umbrella. Because yesterday, talking about my strong, damn, that wing was coming down. I had a big umbrella because the smaller umbrella wasn't going to work. I had to have the big one. And even though that rain was coming down, it was hitting, and it's like, but I was covered. I was protected. So I use that metaphor as like, y'all got my back. I could have been drenched. I hate getting wet with my clothes on. I hate it. But that umbrella, that I have that covering over me, and then we cover our woman, and then cover it. So now you have that, again, going back to what we said in the rites of passage. So now if the man is covered by the Most High, and we cover the women, and the women, and with the covering, and also when it comes down to the children. So now look at the double protection you have. You have the Yah, you have the man covering you. So this is where we're sharing with in our community, is that look how much protection you have. So then guess what? You can walk in rhythm. Not saying you don't forget that you're being protected, but you can walk in rhythm because why? You're able, you know that you are realizing that we're living our culture, which is natural. There's no resistance. There's just submitting, because we have to submit to the Most High as well. And so it's just, like I said, that rhythm, that's the part that I love about rhythm, is that it's smooth. It's complimentary. It's sunny days.
Yeah. And two is in a way it's predictable. You know, you can feel your way through it. And it's a strange sort of faith-based movement. You know, like if you're listening to music and you pick up on the rhythm, like you don't have to think about bopping your head after like 3 or 4 bops, you know. But something you said reminded me of the piece in the Anu Way, in that segment you had just read, the paragraph where it says, if a small boy is correctly primed, he can complete all the tasks of his father by the age of 15. You know, and how you were talking about that covering. Yeah, you're priming your children for that covering, but you had also said something about you had touched on them now taking part of the rites of passage training, you know, for the rest of their lives. And Aki El touched on something last night. That was a similar point that was in the book, The Destruction of African Civilization, when he was talking about restructuring education, as opposed to having this Western model where up until the age of 18, you're in school, and then after that, you're on your own. You know, it's a continual education system throughout your life. You know, I think it was like from 6 to 65 or something like. It was something regarding the age of 65, but you're just getting up to that age of eldership. But at no point do you stop learning or affirm that your education is complete. Because as long as you have younger generations, you're always teaching. And if you got to keep teaching, then you got to keep learning in order to move and step with what's going on. You know, and it has a certain loop that goes, or a certain spiral where everyone's growing together. You know, there's no disconnect with between the age groups, as we often see in the West. You know, people are trying to connect now, but in a very sick way where certain males and females don't want to move beyond a certain stage of development. So they're in the 60s and 70s, and their heart's still backwards, and they're still sagging the pants, standing up on the corner. Instead of kicking the wisdom that they need to kick to young people, they still have some gems that they can give out. You know, but because they had stopped learning at a certain point, or a lot of the lessons that they learned were hard knock lessons from not having this rites of passage experience, you know, there's a different sort of quality to the gems that they give. And I just wanted to keep up with the chat.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing. You got it? You want me to read it?
I can go this time.
Gotcha.
Um, I hope I'm reading this right. Kwa Lamar. Hopefully, I'm saying this name correctly. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. This message. Shabbat shalom. All right, peace, brother. We also have. Oh, Chief says, shout out to Mr. Johnson for sharing that wisdom with me. In referring to me and my then consort. Oh, he's speaking to
About the
making
cult.
the
Yeah.
making the racehorse with a jackass.
Right.
Nothing like that simple wisdom from an elder who has lived a hard life, right? Um, Chief also says, we will never operate out of fear, even when fear is with us. Whatever scares us, we will confront. Even the mob doesn't run with the,
When the
even the
heat
mob
comes.
doesn't run when the heat comes. We are superior to them. Yeah, exactly. There's actually, there's a video game called God of War, right? And it's about this person who ascends into the Greek pantheon, winds up slaying the Greek pantheon, and then he flees to a Scandinavian area, and he's hiding out from. He doesn't want the Norse gods to know that he's a god, and he doesn't want his son to know that he's a god because he doesn't want him to get mixed up with them, because he has a rough experience with deities.
Okay.
But they wind up having to do something when his wife dies. And as they're going through this journey, it's sort of like a rites of passage. The first part of it is him teaching him how to hunt and him teaching him how to be patient and make sure that he does things the way he needs to do it. But there is a certain part where his son is like, that's a big giant. I don't know. Maybe we could go around here and we don't have to fight him. And he's like, no, we're going to fight him. And the little boy's like, why? He's like, because you're scared of him. And that's something that young boys need to learn. They need to learn how to confront things that they're afraid of, like Chief is saying now. I thought that was a great addition to it. He said, why do I have to fight him? Because you're afraid of him. That's all there is to it.
Exactly. And I love it how Chief was mentioning in the chat. I was laughing. He was commenting when I was saying it wasn't her beauty. It wasn't her beauty, right? It was her beauty. It was her booty. I'm sorry. We sympathize, brother. That demonic hussy is waiting for us, waiting for all of us under that, under every street light. Right. That was my demonic side, and it's so funny because when you play with that demonic side of you, because we all got devils in us, and then that's another thing. We all have that, and that's going back to when Chief did the enlightenment and transformation. And I was sharing that with someone that your devil never leaves. It's always there present to let you know it's there. So the objective is to tame it. The objective is to control it. And so if you don't control it, it controls you. And this is where that's why I remember when I was encountered with that, it's like, oh my God, I realized, damn, I let this devil of me just control my thoughts and got me, oh my God, got me caught up. It's like, you're going to jail tonight. I'm like, oh man. But once you know once you know better and you realize you made a mistake, you just okay, deal with it. Because like you said, you got to face your fear. And actually at that time, that was fear for me because I was afraid to leave. I was like a bird in a cage. And you ever see a bird in a cage and you got the cage don't even have a lock on it? She scared me to the point where I wouldn't leave the damn cage. So again, against our culture. And I know there's some men outside that's still going through that. They're like, oh, I ain't gonna show this segment to my woman. She'll kill me. If you got that mindset, that's not manhood. That is not being in harmony, or better yet, that is not walking in rhythm with the Most High. Because why? You are going against your nature. You're going against your purpose. And until you awaken, until you go through that rites of passage, which sooner or later, the Most High is going to send you through it anyway. You're going to learn it the easy way or you're going to learn it the hard way. The objective is learn it the easy way so that way you can walk in rhythm which I love it because when you were sharing and I was listening when you were commenting, walking in rhythm, it's like you're vibrating. It's a vibration. It's harmonizing. It's the birds chirping. It's watching the trees. I love in the springtime when I watch, one day when I watch the trees and I look at them every day, and then I notice, oh wow, what is that? It's a bud coming through. And it's like, now I know the leaves are getting ready to form. That's walking in rhythm for me. Walking in rhythm is I was watching yesterday. I was watching some ants, and they was a colony, and it's like, dang, they were working. See, things like that, that's walking in rhythm, because what? It's nature. They're working their purpose. You don't see the ants trying to mess with the dung beetles. Now, unless the dung beetle dies, then guess what? That's going to be a meal for the ants. But the point is, everybody's walking in rhythm, or nature is supposed to walk in rhythm. So now, going back to our subject, walking in rhythm. Can you imagine a squirrel start barking like a dog? Is that squirrel walking in rhythm? No, because it's not the purpose of a squirrel to bark like a dog. Mm-hmm. And so I was going to also listen what Chief was sharing in the chat. He mentioned also the covering model is amazing because over time the children cover the parents, and the cycle begins again, and all under the watchful eye of our Elohim. And that's true, because most parents don't realize if you create your own, you create your own devil, or you have a choice. If you don't create in harmony with the Most High righteously, guess what? And I've seen it many a times where the children don't talk to the parents. It's funny because for those of us who have never been to the continent, they don't have nursing homes. The elders are in the home growing with the entire family, okay, until they transition. Mm-hmm. They may have a room, but here we have nursing homes. Why? Because we don't have a culture. But also, it's not out of place for some parents. I've told this to a parent. I said, you know what? You forget. One day you're going to get old. And you think you're talking about that youth that you created and you cause confusion. But you know what's going to happen one day? What's going to happen? And I'm commenting what Chief said. What's going to happen is you're going to get old and you can't do for yourself. But again, going back to rites of passage, right? So now you can't feed for yourself. And what happens if you can't walk? What happens if you can't think? What happens if you are in a convalescent home and you can't move, and now there's no visitors and you're by yourself? And so why? Because you didn't even take the time to think about your youth that you brought into the world, but you weren't creating them on purpose. It was oops, I'm pregnant. Because Chief was mentioning in the segment that someone was graduating somebody, and he mentioned that too, about how many times we hear the story about and I knew there's no sex outside of marriage. Right. And if you do have sex with someone, guess what? That's marriage. That's it. Courting's over. That's it. But the point is, if you court or you mate properly, if you and of course most of us outside of new if you don't do it that way, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have moments like that. So now you had a child outside of wedlock, which created what? Created the confusion, chaos.
Yeah, that's a very it's a touchy subject for some, but it's something that needs to be rectified. This is how you rectify it, right? Make sure you do these things in graduated steps, but everything has to go according to the culture. And it's something that it's common, and the issue with things that are common is people think that they're natural. Things that have been normalized are confused with what's natural, and it's not necessarily natural to do that, not according to our culture.
Right.
Just like Chief was saying in this comment, the children cover the parents, and the cycle begins again, all under the watchful eye of our L.
Right.
So I don't know what anyone else doing under their L. But
Right.
in terms of our L, we got our instructions of how to rise to that level, you know. But while you're speaking, I I um I realized something, and that is Chief done it a couple of times in terms of what I don't see often, but I do not see too many people modeling how you take care of your elders.
Right.
You know, I don't see that too often. How do you take care of your elders after they've reached a certain stage? Because sometimes it's not pretty, based on the
Right.
type of life that they lived and the types of damage that they may have done to their body, or their body shutting down and them not being able to handle certain experiences. Um, and sometimes it's just not filmed. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
say that it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I realize that that's not something that's trending or popular. You know, just
Right.
like you wouldn't see it trending or popular, a strong man living on his purpose and having a woman or women who support him unapologetically, and
Right.
that being applauded.
Right.
You know, I was watching this clip of this interview show, and um this woman and this I call it two and a half women. You know, they got
Okay.
two and a half women, men. You had
Uh-huh.
two females and a simp on this talk show. One of them was like being very um, middle of the road of it, but one of them was just like laying into this woman who tweeted what she does for her husband, and she said, "My husband does this, and he also runs an MMA gym, and I work with him to help him. I make sure I get up with him at 4 a.m. I make sure that his lunch is packed, the children's lunch is packed. We have 4 children, you know, and she's doing all of this to make sure that their home is maintained. And this woman who has is none of her business. It's in public domain, sure, but it's none of her business. That she's like, oh, what are we in the 1950s? Shut the f up.
Right. Right.
You ain't doing nothing. And here it is, the half a woman is there agreeing with them. And so, yeah, he must have, like, does she need help? Is she a hostage?
Right.
You know, but you see that more often than you would see people celebrating, oh, wow, this is how our elders should be treated, you know, or this is how our men should be treated, this is how women should be treated, because that's not, that's their culture, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And like I was saying earlier, the modeling, we have to create the modeling because everything has been flipped so upside down, and there's such a gap in the rites of passage generations that we don't normally see those who went through um, those periods or those tests.
Mm-hmm.
We often see the ones who are quick to turn on the camera and say what they are, even
Right.
though they have no teacher or no eldership or the line of authority was in there. They didn't have no umbrella, so now they got. I remember Chief used this example. They got like the hat with the propeller that's spinning on top of it, and that's what they call their umbrella. And they think they're saying something, but really they're just reaping chaos. You know.
Exactly. And you know, it's interesting because as you were sharing, um, you know, I visit a couple times during the week, um, and with my schedule, some elders, and and I just you know, I remember Chief was mentioning that some time ago. One time he was visiting an elder, and that just being there. And then I remember when he shared the story, it was some time ago when he shared it. But the point is, that's a part of our culture. Even though the elders that I'm talking about are not a part of our new culture, I was raised with elders, so I understand and I appreciate it. Matter of fact, I am grateful. I'm tremendously grateful for a lot of them. A lot of the things you hear from me and the stuff that I'm talking about and things, I learned a lot from them, even though they weren't a part of our culture. But it was some wisdom. They dropped gems. I was always getting gems, and I was
Mhm.
always given something. And I didn't, you just sit there and listen. And
Yeah.
so when I share, but see, that's something that you don't hear about as much. And when I share this with others outside of our new, a lot of them don't have that rapport with You know, you'll be surprised. See, in the Bahamas is maybe different, but here in the States, people, there is a major gap between the youth and the elder, the elders. I'll just say elders.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've seen, and in my walks, I see some of the elders want to be like the 19 still, and I'm like, oh God, no, she did not put that wig on. Oh no, what the hell? Oh, I don't say nothing. I see it every day. I'm like, wow. But then again, I had to correct an elder one time, and going back to his rites of passage, and I'll never forget. Some elders were saying, I always hear this a lot. Those kids, those youth, they're so disrespectful and everything, and they don't have no sense of culture. And I had to tell this one elder one time. I said, well, ma'am, you know what I've seen in your family, you don't teach anything. You can't blame this on youth that don't know. If they don't get any knowledge, if they don't get any time to spend and learn things properly, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get the opposite of that. And so that's where, again, going back to respect, in order to develop as a culture, because like Chief mentioned in the chat, we're going to all get older. There's going to be a moment where we may not be able to walk. I think about that. You know, I know Abba Herut going to be 100-something years old. And Abba Herut y'all going to be like, oh my God, Abba Herut is like, he 188 years old doing, I'm like, hey, but guess what? But let's say if I can't, at least I have those to teach that respect, also listen, honor them. Even if we disagree, I walk around, even a lot of the elders I hang around with, I don't agree with a lot of the stuff they do, but it doesn't matter about that. It's a matter about spending the quality time, and I listen, I learn a lot, and I enjoy that moment. This rhythm that we're talking about, this topic that we're talking about, the cycle of life, rites of passage, cycle of life. I learned from the youth as well. Master Menyelek, I learned a lot. Akizak, I learned a lot from, and my mind is just, I can hear a lot. So my point is, Yakira Eden, I think about when she did her segment, and then even the dysfunction, I learned a lot from that. Why? Because I learned not to do it. If anything I learned, and I'm still learning, don't do it that way, because guess what? This is what's going to happen if you do this. This is part of what can happen to you. And so that helps me to understand and learn and appreciate life, the journey in life. I was sharing with someone that I know they're hearing. I hope they are. I said the breath. We're talking about rhythm. We don't really, Chief mentioned this. We don't really take an account of our breath. So now the Most High, our first breath is from the Most High, and then we exhale, and to inhale is the Most High. I'm making sure. I want to make sure I say this correctly. Our first breath is exhale. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know someone in the chat gonna help me out. I know Zach is out there. He like,
yeah, you waiting? I'm pretty sure he's typing right now.
So in other words, that exhale, you in other words, to inhale, you have to exhale. In other words, going back to the balance, going back to harmony. We don't just exhale that breath and not inhale it, because we got to return it. It's like a cycle. We have to return it and receive it at the same time. So you're returning it and you're receiving it. I know you're watching it attack. Okay.
I wasn't gonna say anything. We can get to that. We can go to the chat after you finish.
Okay. So I just want to use that example. Again, rhythm. Walking in rhythm. The breath alone. One day we're not going to breathe. I watched 4 people that still touches me, that they took their last breath. If any of us who've ever experienced that you talking about, remember, you've been breathing for how many years? We take it for granted. A heartbeat, we take it for granted. It beats. It beats constantly. That's the one organ in our body that never stops. It's
Right.
always working. But we take it for granted. But we know one day it's not going to beat anymore. One day we're not going to breathe. They
I
won't.
had an experience like that.
Huh?
Too. I had an experience like that too. It was actually from a heart attack. You know, I
Mm.
because we were trying to help them up, and a friend of mine and I, because it was his neighbor, I was over at his house, and his wife called him,
Mm-hmm.
so we rushed over to see if we could help, but he was just, by the time we got there, he was already getting cold. You know, he was on the way out. Yeah, man. So I know what you mean when you say that rhythmic breath, that inhale and exhale, um, you take it for granted
Mm-hmm.
until you see it leave. Um, finally, you know, you see
Right.
it you finally, and it's
For the
like,
last time.
oh wow, this person, like, I think Dave Chappelle put it pretty well in um one of his interviews. I think he was on Inside the Actor Studio, and he was talking about when his barber passed,
Mm-hmm.
and he said it was so abrupt and quick. You
Mm-hmm.
know, 1 minute he's there, and then the next minute it was a whole another situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it can happen that quick. Life goes on, but in those moments, it's like time feels like it's going in slow motion.
Right. Right. And I could tell you, watching that moment, my mom, I was there present for hers. My uncle, her brother, my cousin, I watched him. He was 21.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, my grandmother. It changes your life. It helps you to appreciate everything in your life. If anything like that, I could tell you that's what I really take from the moment. And going back to what we were saying about right, and then the rites of passage. That is a
Mm-hmm.
right. We're
Right,
all going to do that. But the
right.
question is, some of us take that for granted because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So
You know
now,
what?
uh-huh.
Taking that for granted too. When you take it for granted, you're less sensitive to when um, someone chooses to distort that. Meaning, if
Mm,
you're someone who appreciates life, it bothers you when someone tries to distort what life is.
mm,
You know, like the talk show host I was speaking about earlier. She had no right to speak anything to that situation, right? And she knew that she was wrong, but it's the agenda that she was set up to propagate.
okay.
And it doesn't matter whether or not she's objectively wrong in their eyes. All that matters is if people think that they're right, or think that they can use that situation, or the very blatantly sick comments that they were using to speak about a functioning family. If I could speak against a functioning family, and people who are either afraid of or reject the idea that they should have one, they can use this as ammo against themselves to
Mm-hmm.
say, I'm not going to have a man like that. I'm not going to treat my man like that because this ain't the 1950s. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they figure because it sounded like a zinger to them that this should be a silver bullet for anyone who tells them, nah, you should have a functional family.
Right.
You know,
Right.
but this ain't 1950s. No, but you still need a functional family. And say, oh, I didn't think I'd get this far. You know, because they think that's it. That's all the convincing that they need. And
Right.
again, that's because they don't get it um, through their rites of passage. That's one of the things that you get through your rites of passage. Being able to do everything that your father's able to do means that you're able to manage a homestead.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because once the man dies, if he should die early, who takes care of the mother? The son.
Yeah.
So he's got to be able to maintain everything that's going on in the household. You know, that's why in different cultures they refer to the heir or the first son as young master, because you're going to be the patriarch when your father passes.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to get you used to the idea that you have to run a home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're going to be in all of this is going to be your responsibility. It's not like Simba where he's like, I can't wait to be king because I can do whatever I want. Nah, you sober up and you realize, I don't know if I can run this whole thing. And his father, yes, you can. Come, let me show you. You know, his uncles come and say, oh, yeah, you can do that. Just go over there, talk to so and so. They're helping them to form relationships. They're helping them to know respect.
Right.
You know, when you're speaking to allies of the family, you know, not necessarily people speaking to people who are under the household, but you can go to your neighbor or to the family around the corner and be like, oh, you have respect. Good afternoon, such and such. You give them the proper greeting, and you say, my father asked me to come and see you. He said that you had something for him. They say, oh yeah, come right in. And then they show them around and they're like, yeah, because you're an ally, right? This is my son. This is my first son, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are my daughters. And it's like when you see them out, you know, I like how in Chinese culture everyone is referred to like a familiar name. You know,
Mm.
you have second brother or second uncle. It's like
Right.
you're not really blood, but you're blood because
Right.
you know we're all one people, especially in the same area. And it teaches even the women of the culture to know these men here, they're able to cover me as well because we're all under the same culture. I have my covering, but if I'm um if I'm in a situation where things are rough and my husband may be away on business, I know that if I need to, I can always go to his wife for help, or I can always speak to his wife about certain things, and we can have a sisterly relationship there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's respect there. There's there's propriety, right? There's righteousness there.
Right.
But that doesn't happen if you're raised to think that one, you're individual, and whatever happens happens to you and no one else but you. So the consequences of your actions happen to you and no one else but you. So
Right.
even though you know there's obvious consequences, you can just handle it
Exactly.
somehow. Like it doesn't affect everyone else around you and everyone else under that umbrella.
It's interesting because just like you said, like with Simba, yeah, he couldn't wait to be king, but he didn't. He saw his father, and his father made it look easy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Mufasa like okay, he runs around the prey lands and he oversees and everything. Yeah, he sees it, but see, it seems easy. Same thing with most people was look at Chief. They look at like, oh, Chief, he got easy, but they don't know what Chief was prepared and how long it took and what he has to go through to prepare for this kingdom,
Mm-hmm.
to prepare for us junior Jegnas, to prepare for the womb space. That's work. Going back to mating, that's work. You got to put the work into it. That's not easy. It's not easy when you when you have to put the Elohim where the Elohim was taken out. Can you imagine? That's another thing. The world went so much to take the Elohim out. And going back to what you were just sharing earlier about everyone does not serve the same God. That blew my mind when I learned that. I'm like, what? Wait a minute, huh? Wait a minute. Could you repeat that again? Yes. Everyone does not have the same God. We understand what the Most High is. We understand what that Elohim, but we only learned that understanding from one when Chief broke it down, and then also learning it from the application of culture, application of applying the Anu way, application of solutions, application of the Elohim nurturing, feeding us, intuiting within us of being submissive, being obedient, being under his umbrella, being under his protection. And so when you have that guidance and when you have that, again, culture, it makes it easy. But you can't just let your guard down, because why? There's always going to be that other part that's going to try to come into camp and disrupt the peace and harmony. That's another thing we go through. There's always someone going to come into camp and it's like, So y'all have this Elohim that's a part of this community, right? Okay, well, I'm going to send empathy. I was asking that with Kulti Yafe. I remember one part of the scriptures that I asked her, and I wrote it down, but I don't got it right now because I didn't think I was going to bring it up tonight. But now that dark energy, that darkness, that dark demons now have to come in, and now they interrupt the flow of harmony, the flow of rhythm. And then again, going back to how we have to always resist, because we're going to be, again, going back to what we were saying about the rites of passage. You're always going to go through some type of resistance. You're always going to go through some type of challenges. You're going to always go through some type of fear, anxiety, some type of something to break you down. Because now, in our rightful state as a man, or a rightful state as a woman, there's always going to be that element, if it's outside the world, going to break you down. Like, no, like you just said about being in the 1950s. Oh, girl, that's the 1950s. We don't do that anymore. We elevate it now.
Yeah, but the only thing they can
Ozzy
do,
and Harriet. That's Leave It to Beaver. That's All My Children, or not the one, not the new version. No. But then, interesting what you just shared. Back then, they didn't have breast cancer. The women, when you have that covering, you didn't have breast cancer. You didn't have uterine cancer. You didn't have heart attacks. I'm not saying you didn't have heart attacks. Let me correct that. Women, when you have protection, proper protection, and when you operate under that authority we call the Most High, with that covering, guess what happens? And He protects you from that. But when you start to be wayward, why is cancer one of the number one killers in the Western world? Breast cancer for women. Now they're going out there, well, I'm gonna run for breast cancer. It ain't gonna cure it anyway, because guess what? You don't even realize that cancer, that uterine cancer, that breast cancer, or whatever cancers or whatever health challenges that most of us go through, especially for the women. Now, this one's for the men too, but now they don't realize that because you're not functioning in your fluid femininity, you're not functioning in that rightful state, that, again, going back to consequences. You're going to suffer the consequences of not flowing the way you're supposed to be. If you're not willing to accept your role, men, if you're not willing to accept your role as a man, you're going to suffer too. Womb, if you don't accept your role as this role, if you want to see it as, oh, that's their ages, okay, well then why is those cancers? Why are those health challenges? Why are these things been increased since the 1950s when they didn't even exist? I was sharing with some friends, this is some years ago, where I mentioned a couple years ago in Nigeria, in some, and not just breast cancer, let's use breast cancer. They didn't know what that was. The women there didn't know. They don't understand what that is, because when they know what their breasts were for. That's one. When that baby comes out, put that baby on the breast, and they could be doing their work. Especially for those of you who have been privileged to watch a woman when she carries her child, she don't put him in the playpen. No, that baby's strapped to the back, and they're going about their work. But then that's a burden, huh? If you understand your what's the proper place of us being here, and we know in Anu it's about being mating. It's about, again, community. You can't have a community without the righteous remnants of man, woman, and children. And then as we know in Anu, we have elder women, elder men, and so I'm not saying that order, because it's the older men. Then you know what? I'm gonna mess it up because I have to go back to the Anu way. It's an Anu way. I know you can help me out. I know Zach is in the chat.
I help you out.
Well,
but Zach, get on you. It's the elder man. It's the Elohim and the elder man.
There you go.
And under the elder man, you have man. Under the man, you have the elder woman, and then you have the women the junior women, and then the children. Right.
Right.
That's
I
still
just read
following
that
that.
yesterday. No,
Still
no,
following that
Thursday.
umbrella model. I
Thank
went
you.
down.
Thank you, Master
This,
Menyelek.
no problem. No
Thank you,
problem.
Master Menyelek.
I
I got
went
it.
down to
I
skim the
got you.
chat, but I got stuck. So
Right. I
apologies,
got it
but
right here.
it's
I got it marked. But my point is, you
mhm.
know, it's about rhythm. It's about balance. It's about harmony. It's about order. Without that, you know, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And that's that's the key. That's the key to it. I got my underway right here too. I got my book. It's been marked so many times. I'm like, but it's okay. I'll find it. But you read it off.
We
You
good.
read it off.
We good, man. We good. I'm just gonna go to the chat.
Yeah.
I almost lost our place because for some reason it wasn't letting me scroll back up, but I think I got it back. So I think someone came in too.
Yeah. Aki
But I
Zach.
wasn't.
Aki Zach
Yeah,
came in.
Akizak came in. Okay, and I hope hopefully I'm pronouncing this right. Correct me if I'm wrong, brother. Misito Anka. Yeah, peace, welcome. Um, Chief says, no, we should never tiptoe around anyone, least of all women and children. That is the sign of someone under a curse. Being a king is a full-time role, and you never take that crown of wisdom off. I think this was speaking to your Rasputia experience.
Mm-hmm.
Akizak says, makes me think of the key of life. What is your note?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't know which one we were talking about.
Yeah. The circle of life. I was just talking about the breath.
Oh, the circle of life.
Right.
Okay. Chief Yuya says even the dung beetle transitioning and becoming nutrition for the ant is a part of that rhythm. It's still intelligently designed. Yeah, right. Isaac says anti-nature and one trying to make decisions based on feelings. That's like the most annoying thing to me, especially when people like if they're not in the position to make that decision and you are, and they're trying to pressure you to go along with their fears. Like, shut up. Like, go in the corner. Like, I'm trying to make a logical decision and you're interrupting my thought pattern with we should do this, do it quick. It's like, nah, just shut up. Like Isaac said, my dad would tell me to rest when I got hurt in high school. I thought I would be young forever. When you don't listen to one further along the path, calamity ensues. Yeah. Yep. There's some stories.
Yep.
Zach said, "Our L, man, we are not, we are not the same." Yeah, exactly. We're not the same. Chief Yuya, I think this was speaking about the talk show. The female hyenas on those sorts of talk shows who say those vile statements never have wedding rings on their fingers.
Yeah.
This is true. This is true. Uh, they certainly will give you info that you will not find in a book. I think you're speaking to elders. Yeah, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You don't find that information in a book.
Right.
Speaking of which, I think Abba Herut, you were just talking about the line of succession, like you growing up with elders,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a similar experience because I came up under my father, had both my grandfathers, and I was always cool with my teachers for some reason, the male teachers. There was a elder in church that did the performing arts ministry, so I learned about acting and stuff because he used to write a lot of plays. So we got cool because we used to always vibe on similar subjects, similar to another teacher that we're cool with to this day. Matter of fact, when I was going through the betrothal period, and my consort had to come over and meet my family in Nassau, we couldn't stand in the same roof. So I actually stayed at his place and I explained to him what was going on. He's like, "Oh, okay, cool. I'm glad you went that route." But he had an experience Well, he had a program in high school that he ran, and it was called Men of Honor.
Mm-hmm.
But this was like priming me for, like how you say your Bible was priming you for Anu. This sort of primed me for Anu as well, in terms of having a mentality that men and women are different, because there's another program called Women of Character. Um, so there's Men of Honor and Women of Character, and it taught us like to have certain standards and carry ourselves with more respect than we were being taught to, or being treated with.
Right.
So that was a big help in my development. And I have like so many encounters with elders, both men and women,
Right.
that showed me just how to interact with my elders. I was
Mm-hmm.
really cool with people my age, unless it's the people who I like to make jokes with, or just hang around, make fun of people, to their faces. um, let's see. Oh yeah, yeah. I had to go to the barber. She said I knew it was coming. Yeah, man, gotta go to the barber. Hey, I've been cutting my own hair for I don't know how long, stuck stranded on that island that I'm working on. So I had to jump at the chance when I came out. He still did not cut this joint the way I asked him to. Irony. Uh, my grandfather would say, "Just live." Zach says, "Don't apologize on my name. I ain't no background dancer." I don't know if that was to you. the first, the first breath is Corona.
Oh wow! I just got that.
Oh,
I
you
just
got
got
it.
that when you said, "I'm gonna get you, Aki Zach." You know what? It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. I remember that. I ain't gonna ever forget that. I ain't gonna ever forget that.
Yeah, he won't let you. He won't let you.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I know he's ready for the next retreat. I know. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Chief says younger people struggle to see older people as credible authorities. They recognize that the systems are not for them, and if they see you as being a part of or under the system, they mistrust you.
That is true. That is true. I had to share that with an elder one time. As you shared it with Chief, because the elder came to me and asked me, "Well, why doesn't the young people?" I said, "You got to understand." I was sharing with that elder that the reason is because if you tell, like example, if you tell you don't smoke, and you smoking, they see all that. They're not gonna know. They're not gonna honor that. And I when I shared that, I said that's why you can't fool people like that. The young people, the generation now, coming out, they're actually going to be more smarter than what we're seeing. Even though they may be, you don't see it coming, you don't see, but give them some, like you said, some knowledge, give them an opportunity to learn culture. They're going to go way further than what some of us struggled with, and so I don't never forget that. And that's another thing, going back to what we were sharing about being an Anu. I'm not doing this for just me. I'm looking at my children's children. I'm looking at them. When we are doing this segment, I'm thinking about them. I'm thinking about, because I always remember, by doing this work, that if I failed to do this work, it would be harder on my son. It'll be harder on my children. Because I felt that from my parents. I felt that, yeah, there's things that I'm still learning, still developing, that I didn't receive. And I wish I did. It would have been great. Even though I was around elders, they gave me a lot to get through, but there's still a lot that you're still developing. And so I said that I won't do that for the generation to come. Just like we said, we have a community. Wait a minute, not just any community, a righteous community, that we have order and balance. And so, like you were just sharing, when Chief was sharing, that is true. That is so true. And elders didn't see that. They didn't understand. They were like, they're so used in their generation, you just do what you're told. Don't, there were questions like that. Do as you're told. Or that worked maybe years ago. That might have worked when I was young. But that doesn't work the same way today. You can't tell someone don't do as I do, and you having a cigarette, you drinking, and you on drugs, and you like they like and so that gives more chaos.
Mm-hmm. And they don't really, the words you say have less of an effect than you think if your actions don't match.
Yeah.
It doesn't really, it has actually the reverse effect. I'm gonna go and do this thing because you're telling me not to eat cake. Cake is bad for you, but you eating cake. So and I sneak in the fridge and I sneak some of that cake when you ain't looking, and it actually tastes good, and that dopamine starts firing off. It's like this sucker is trying to hide all the good stuff for himself.
Exactly.
What else is he hiding from me? Let me go out and try experience. Like now you're getting all your advice from your friends and your friend group and your peer group because everyone older than you, they can't be trusted.
Yeah.
Because you train young people when they're very young to see their elders or olders as authority figures. They never make the distinction between an elder and an older. So as far as I'm concerned, if I'm I don't know 12 and you're 15, you're my elder, right? And then if I'm 15 and you're 30, you're my elder. And if I see you doing something that's contrary to what I'm told that elders should do, if I'm wise, I may say, okay, this person is doing some foolishness because I was told by my elder not to do it. But then when the person who told you not to do it does it, either blatantly or you catch them, it's like, you jive turkey. you know, I it's like I knew I couldn't. I knew it was too good to be true. Everybody I see is doing this thing. I'm not doing it because you're not doing it, and here it is, you're doing it too. So I'm supposed to. So I'm the idiot. I'm supposed to be the one who's left out. So there's no precept behind what it is you're telling these young people to do. There's no precept, there's no principle. There's just don't do it because it's not good for you, but you can't stop because you're addicted.
Right.
So if you're addicted, going back to what we were speaking about, walking in rhythm and mating properly, if you have addictions, then you didn't go through that rites of passage correctly because you're not supposed to have addictions. That's not what we do.
Right.
So if you have addictions, then I can't even look at you as an adult no more.
Exactly.
But what are you as a supposed adult who has an addictions doing with a child? If you haven't grown up to adulthood yet.
Or they're doing the addictions with that child there.
It's in the blood now.
Yeah.
Now I gotta fight your addictive personality and mine. And whatever I start on top of that. So I gotta stay away from you because you're no good for me.
Right.
And the elders or the oldest don't see it that way. They see it as disrespect because you're supposed to automatically agree with me. I grew up all this time thinking as soon as I turn 18, I don't have to listen to anyone, and everyone under 18 has to listen to me. So it's not looking forward to earning your adulthood. It's looking forward to aging into some sort of fictitious power or authority. But the line of authority isn't established.
And that's why I spent, I'm a late bloomer. I spent years, asking the Elohim about, especially when you're growing up outside of our community, if you grow up outside of our new, and then you're going through all this chaos, you're going through all this confusion. Over here, they don't, when I went to my grandmother's house, you didn't know the girls and the boys did not sleep together. That rule still hands to this day. But then going back to look at culture today, look at their culture, because that is not ours. Their culture is, and this boggles my mind. A young girl could be 13 years old, 15 years old. Let's just use that as an example. She could be 13, 15 years old. If she has premarital sex with a 20-year-old, it's considered incest, right?
Statutory
rape. I'm sorry. Well, yeah, because that happens too.
Yeah,
But
sometimes you
then
get a double whammy.
if that same 15-year-old has sex with another 15-year-old, that's not considered rape. That's not considered. That is considered. In matter of fact, I was thinking about this. We were preparing for this segment. I'm like, it's interesting how culture says it's okay for a 15-year-old now. 15. It's younger. We got some younger than that. Okay, but just saying this fairness, 15.
Mm-hmm.
She's with another 15-year-old boy. Now, at first, the family may have a problem, but you know what the crazy women around that crazy young 15-year-old is gonna do? Well, girl, we need to have a bridal shower. I'm sorry, not a bridal shower. No, that's they ain't gonna have that later.
No,
No, baby shower. So now it's like, wait a minute, wait the hell a minute. What does this 15-year-old know anything about a baby? She's not even made it. She doesn't even understand what it is. But you know what? She understands sex. And oops, he's 15. He don't even have a job. But she, because why? The girls around her, by the way, it's an association though. Because guess what? She's not the only 15-year-old that's getting ready to have this child out of wedlock. Guess what? She has two of her friends. One's 14. The other one's 15. And they had their baby last year. And girl, you know what? I can't wait till Christmas comes up so we can get those new Jordans. And I'm like, this is crazy. Crazy. And we have normalized this. And this is crazy. We have now normalized, mind you, the 15-year-old with the 20-year-old is statutory rape.
Mm-hmm.
He may go if he gets caught. But then the 15-year-old with another 15-year-old is okay.
Baby shower.
But the thing is, the point is, it's still crazy.
Mm-hmm.
All of it's crazy because now it becomes a new norm. Going back to what Akizek was, your God is not the same as ours. Mm-hmm. Because that's still breaking what? You're not walking in rhythm. Oh, by the way, there is some type of rhythm. It's called chaotic rhythm. It's called crazy rhythm. It's called wait until before you get 21, you're going to have more craziness going on. Mm-hmm. Okay. But this is the case, the craziness and these things were going in my mind. I'm like, wow, it's amazing how people celebrate this stuff. And it says it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when you say this is not okay, you're the crazy one.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, Brother Zach says so many things that we take for granted, thinking that it will always be there. Yeah, I think we were talking about the breath. Mm-hmm. Chief says every first breath is an inhale, every last breath is an exhale. That first breath is the most difficult because it's the first time the lungs are used. Zach says that give and take at play. Whatever you get, you will give back. You can almost hear what demigod is at play when they're speaking to you. Chief Gia says, yep, they are always ambassadors for old Elohim who are warring with ours. There's more to being a king than getting your way all the time.
Yeah.
For the Lion King. Yeah, that's true. The first line of the film by Scar is, life's not fair, is it?
Right.
Yeah, it's the first line of the film. Especially if you don't like your position. Yeah, you're talking about fairness. Mm-hmm. When you are chief / lion head of a bride, there is always someone lurking and pacing, seeking to kill you, for what you have built and amassed.
Yeah.
And like Chief was speaking about in the deliverance segment, they just want to spoil it. Mm-hmm. Like they don't even want to take it. Like I can do better with this. You know, it's not like a hostile takeover and you you take it somewhere else, because you're still taking, but at least you're taking care of what you're taking. Scott just spoiled it. As soon as he took over, it's like the worst administration ever, and no one could vote him out.
Starving, they were starving.
Mm-hmm.
No protection. Do it as I say.
Mm-hmm.
Scar was an old elder, old crazy imbalanced elder. He's like, no, y'all gonna do. You matter of fact, go out there and get some damn stuff. Y'all hungry? Go out and get it. But make sure you bring me a leg.
Everything's dead, Scar. Chicken leg. I don't care. I don't care. Scar is one of those I don't cares. I don't care. Leave me alone. I don't care. I'm going to my room. Akizak says red, yellow, black, and white. We are all precious in this sight. That's the song I always thought. Yeah. Who taught you?
Yeah. Who taught you?
Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Yeah. And Chief was quoting Genesis in the next one. Yeah, that's one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip the Phil Javert one. Chief Yuya says, and I will put enmity between thee and the woman, like you were saying, that's the quote you were speaking about earlier, and between thy seed and her seed, and it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel.
Right. Genesis 3, verse 15. Yes.
Hey, you gotta be a little quicker than that, Yafe. I think Chief is referring to your Leave It to Beaver reference.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Beaver trumps all. Like, share, subscribe. Akizak says, so many think that cancer is normal now. Someone told me that you should just live because that is coming and you can't avoid it.
Right.
What?
I've heard that too. You're right. Akizak, yes. It's like, accept it. That's part of life now. You know what they say? You know what they also say? Well, it doesn't matter. Accept it now. You're going to die anyway. So I'm just going to eat this pork chop. I'm going to eat this. I'm going to eat it anyway because you're going to die anyway.
You can't avoid cancer. Well, if you live in a certain culture, you can't.
Right.
People keep telling you can eat cheese and all of these carcinogens and just keep putting unnatural stuff in your body and not even giving your digestive system a rest. Yeah, cancer's inevitable. If you smoking a couple of packs a day and you won't stop, you keep puffing it like, let something kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lung cancer is inevitable. But that's for you, pal. That ain't for me. That's not what I signed up for. I don't know what this hold on, big fella was, but I bet it was good. Exactly. Make sure we know. Hold on, big fella. Chief Years just read it. Young Famicia. I don't know what we're talking about. Mr. Yafe says we honor the righteous remnant who came before us. I guess we were looking for a quote.
Yeah.
Yafe is trying to help us out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we behind on this chat, so I'm trying.
Yeah, we're catching up. We're catching up.
Only half an hour late. Isaac says when I'm looking at the great Amos Wilson's old videos, I always wonder if he was thinking if someone 30 years from now would hear this lecture. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm sure he was though. He did all that meticulous research and he made sure he spoke about it. And he knew they were filming.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that people were able to convert those because I'm sure they want VHS. Convert those VHS to DVD and then.
Well, DVDs. I still got a lot of DVDs, digital. Especially of his. Yeah.
Has do as I say and not as I do ever really worked?
Nope.
I've never seen it.
Nope.
Never seen it. I have only seen it repeat throughout generations.
Right.
Like the person who listened to that, who ignored that, they wind up saying it to someone else because they knew they were told better and they didn't listen. So now they don't want to admit that they were told better and they didn't listen. So they're just going to double down on it like we were talking about earlier. I guess I'll just do this till the day I die. But you don't do it. I'm doing something that's killing me. But don't you go and do it.
Right. Or like you just said, you were told not to eat the cake, but then you go in the refrigerator. Well, for one, if you're not supposed to eat the cake, why is the damn cake in the refrigerator to begin with?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
I
so
watched
now
you
you
bake
start
this
eating
cake.
it, and you're like, it's good.
I watch you bake this cake. You don't eat it. You put all this work and effort into baking this cake. You got you made it from scratch. You didn't even get the box.
No. You know why they told you not to eat the cake, Menyelek? Because it's for the baby shower. It's for the baby shower. So that's
okay,
why
that's
you can't
why.
eat the cake, because it's for the baby shower. And guess what? It's blue because they already know it's a boy. You know, so
even
it's
though it's
part of
supposed
this
to be
what we
red
just
for the
saying.
boy.
So that's why you couldn't eat the cake.
Yeah.
You see how that works? You see how that works?
It's all opposite, but it still makes sense.
Right.
Agizak says, I listen to Chief's old videos and wonder if he left current events out of his videos for the most part because he's thinking about those generations.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. Just like when people would call in an enlightenment and transformation and say they took the Tadulu class, but still having nasty spirits, go back and do that joint again.
Yeah.
They asked the questions was in lesson 1, module 1. I'm trying to find out who I am, and I was wondering if you could help me with that, brother. I don't know what you ain't never lied about, Abba. I don't know exactly what I was speaking about. Oh, this is true, Abba. Oh, he's probably talking about the baby showers too. Chief said, this is true, Abba. People are throwing showers and applying the destruction of the original family by means of sexual immorality. This is a sign of social insanity. Yeah, man. Looks like we're catching up.
Yeah.
Almost there. Sister Yaffe says, what you mean? But we patched it up with a baby shower and marriage, so it's legit. Everybody going to heaven. Right.
Don't worry about it. They're going to have another baby shower later, the year after that, because if they have the boy, they're going to have the girl. It's just crazy.
I think there's a coupon, 3 baby showers, and you get half off on your wedding.
Huh?
Yeah, 3 baby showers, you get half off on your wedding ceremony. I think that's the deal.
I never heard of that one.
Yeah.
I never heard of that one.
It's a 3 for 1 or 3 for 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe, I never heard of that one.
Yeah,
now
it's a hit with the youngsters.
Okay. But that never worked for me. I mean, it just never made sense. I mean, and like I said, today everything's glorified now. Just like we said earlier about the cancer. You're gonna die of cancer anyway. I'm like, no, the hell I'm not. Because when you, again, if I'm walking in rhythm, if I'm walking in I'm walking with the Elohim, I'm not, hell no. I'm living my life on purpose. And how is I'm living on life on purpose? That means I'm striving. Again, we're forgetting about the temple. So now, going back to what we were saying about walking in rhythm, if my body and mind and spirit is filled with junk, filled with corruption, filled with, I put the bad foods in there. If I say, again, going back to the cancers are only because it's a manifestation over time. Okay, so now I'm eating incorrectly. I'm manifesting thoughts incorrectly. I'm acting incorrectly. I'm not even applying the knowledge. So guess what? That Elohim is not going to take root in this vessel. Why should he? And so we don't understand that walking in rhythm means everybody don't die of cancer. Everybody don't, exactly. Some I watched peacefully peacefully passed on in peace, without no trauma, without any issue. Some of us don't understand what that means. What happens? Okay, so now walking in rhythm. If you put the Most High first and you walk walk by action and application of you're applying the knowledge. If you're applying what we're talking about, why not the Elohim? Will not he look after you? Is he gonna see? That's another thing about trust. I know that if I walk on purpose, if I walk in rhythm, even though I may not know the date, right now, if today is my last day, today may be my last day. Guess what?
Mm-hmm.
I can say, one, I ain't worried about the weighing of that heart, because I'm like, okay, I know I did some stuff. I mean, yeah, but you know what? I'm striving. Yeah, I recognize I was wrong when I did that, but guess what? I'm striving. If today was my last day, I ain't ready because I got a lot of work to do. But the Most High knows that. He knows, like, okay, you're striving. Going back to rites of passage. Going back to what we're sharing. Being a man. I had to go through my rites of passage of being a man. Some of us in the womb space as well as in the men's sphere, we are still developing in manhood. Going, like you said, conquering your fear.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us are still conquering your fear. But then guess what? That's still development. And so as we, like Chief was mentioning in the chat, weighing up all those body. Chief, wow, you got me good. Weighing all those booty stairs against that heart. Yeah, that's true. Because you know what? I realize I can't keep doing that. Because why? The heart's going to be heavy. Because where the heart is, that's where the light of the Most High dwells. If it's heavy, then guess what? I won't be able to walk in rhythm. Because that the Ma'atian feather, that's one thing every time I look at that and I'm like, wow. Yeah, the heart may dip a little. Oh my God! Let it go up a little bit more, a little bit higher, please. Don't dip it. Oh my God! Y'all got another feather? Put it up. And you know what? Just put another feather on that scale. Just put it. You know what? My ma'at wants me to put another feather on that scale.
I think your bargaining is making
it
worse.
Huh?
I think your bargaining is making it worse. Every word you say, your heart gets heavier.
Exactly. Because why?
It's like you getting pulled over from the police. I think you should exercise your right to remain silent. Miss Shirley, was it Miss Shirley? Is that it? That what took me over? I promise. I didn't mean to look at Miss Shirley.
Right, because we got Tahuti writing down every deed, everything we did, every moment. I'm like, damn, I was 6. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not gonna weigh against me, right? I just said the word damn. I'm like, wow. You're gonna
be damned if you keep talking.
Right. It's like,
but you trying to bargain. It's the thing where people try to do this a lot, but it's like the 5 stages of grief. And you reach that bargaining stage after you've gone through your the shock of realizing that I gave you the law and I told you what would happen. So now you gotta accept what happened, but you're going through that 5 stages of grief. You get to that bargaining stage and then you get angry and then you just it's what it is.
Right.
Some people never get to that acceptance. They want to stay at anger, or they want to stay at bargaining. And if you don't want to accept the bargain, which, like, I'm not making any deals with you. You've proven yourself to be untrustworthy. You just broke a law. Why would I bargain with you? Why would I bargain with you? You broke the law that I set. It's not like you broke someone else's law and I'm just a cop giving you a speeding ticket because it's my job and I don't really want to do it, but you a speeding guy. It's like, man, just let me go this one time. You ain't bargaining with me. I'm the one who broke the law.
But it amazes me that, especially in the day and age, that people don't understand that the Elohim sees everything. You're not going to get away with it. You're not. Every little deed, every little thing you did, it could be, that little thing may be small, but it doesn't matter. It is. He's not going to forget it. And you're not going to get away with it. There are consequences for everything we do against that law. And so why not just walk in rhythm? So now, going back to what we're sharing, submit. Just do it anyway. Do it anyway. Like Chief mentioned in the chat earlier. No, as Aki Zach put it, heavy is the head that wears the crown. A lot of people don't realize that the Chief is our chief juggernaut. He has greater, more responsibility than each and every one of us. We take it for granted. Men, you have the homestead, you have your coverings. You take advantage of that. Guess what? That's going to be on you. That's going to be on you, because guess what? Did you fail to fulfill the promise? Did you fail to forget? What part of the Anu chapter you forgot? Or, okay, let's go to this part of the scriptures. Okay, that was written. And it's amazing to me that most people, when we're supposed to be, I love it how Chief's like, grow. And of course, most people ain't gonna grow, so it's okay. You will be devoured. Don't worry about it. That scale's gonna drop, and you're gonna be back in hell all over again. And sometimes it's gonna be worse than where you're at right now. It's okay, because guess what? It's a choice. Akizak, that was put in the chat. You have a choice. Choose which one. Which one are you gonna choose? We all have choices. Yes, we choose the unrighteous part. Guess what? There's consequences for that. Or choose the path and striving that. And guess what? You can walk in harmony and rhythm. You can enjoy the beautiful abundance of life and peace. And another thing that we fail to get. What am I doing to help someone else walk in rhythm? Am I striving? Okay, say if I'm striving and I'm working on mine. Okay, well, what are you doing to help someone else work on theirs? Are you helping someone, assisting someone? This is one thing I learned about a lot of the elders. That helps me to understand, like, okay, it's not about focusing on me. What about, again, where I was sharing about our balance of mating? It's about perfecting what was contaminated in the past bloodlines. It's perfecting where we messed up centuries or years or generations, that generational curses. Because why? If you don't perfect it, you're going to keep repeating it, the cycle over and over, going back to the cycle of life that was mentioned earlier.
Right. And that's one of the dangers of even what you were just sharing. Sometimes I think we're so used to being in trauma, we don't like there's the post that Chief had put on Facebook and on Instagram as well, with a reporter asking some youth who were like school age.
Okay.
And she had asked them, would you prefer to have $1 million or 1 million followers? Right? And they chose the 1 million followers. And they gave the rationale, which was, if I have 1 million followers and I can sell something to them, even if I sell it to each one for £1, that's a potential $1 million. Even, and she was like, well, what if you don't sell them? What if you don't get a sale from each follower? It's like, you could still, it depends on how much you sell the product for.
Right.
You don't necessarily have to sell it for £1. But they were thinking, as Chief was explaining, they weren't thinking based on poverty. Because someone who was in poverty or had a poverty mindset and had a scarcity mindset, they would just be like, give me the cash. But they were thinking wealth minded, because this is a different era. A lot of the things that we were taught worked, and a lot of the institutions and industries that we were brought up to believe were successful or stable, they're collapsing. They are crumbling under the weight of all of this new technology that is just gushing forth.
Right.
They can't keep up with it. They have social media classes and courses in school now where you got to pay college tuition to take it, or you could just take a boot camp for a fraction of that, or you could just look at what people are doing and do that. So these educational systems, they don't have a monopoly on the distribution of information anymore. Everything is online. And on top of that, they have been saturated with a bunch of insane ideology that is just putting the nails in the coffin, like with a nail gun, not even with a hammer. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this happened fast.
Right.
You know what I mean? But yeah, man, and that goes back to having those rites of passage, or having
Mm-hmm.
young people come up with that global astuteness. They can see what's going on in the world, and they also know who to trust and who not to trust. Because it's not like you and me, whereas especially with you, like with me, the internet was just coming out. You know, when I was coming up, the internet was coming up. So I grew up with the internet, you
Mm-hmm.
know, more or less. Computers weren't that common.
Right.
Now we got computers in our pockets.
Right.
But even with me, you still have to sit at a desktop, and you got to turn it on. You got to hear that loud fan. So you can't even sneak and turn it on in the middle of the night when everybody's asleep and say, beep, that loud beep. You hear that fan where it's like not supposed to be on that. It's like, okay, you know, but now it's like everybody's got a computer, and everybody can see what's going on. They can see
Mm-hmm.
the hypocrisy that a lot of the world governments are perpetrating, and it's not like they got to fight to get a book. You know, they can download whole libraries of PDFs for free from Russia.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some Russian website somewhere. That's where I get my textbooks for school. I don't pay for them. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, you don't necessarily need to go through the quote unquote proper channels anymore. And that's what happens now when you're moving with the rhythm of how life is flowing. And you can see what's going on outside of you. But you can't look outside of you and see that if you're always moving from a state of lack. You know, even with mating, we're not mating because we're trying to repair. The repair is happening because we got to acknowledge that we were, as Chief would say, we were properly formed, and then we got malformed, and now we got to reform,
Mm-hmm.
right? But that reformation is from what into what? You know, it's from that state of being malformed or state of just moving backwards to moving in a more stable and balanced state. And that's like your launching pad to do what you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
You know, it becomes a prerequisite to fix the issue, but the prerequisite isn't the goal. You
Right.
know, it's like a step, and
Right.
it should be like a no-brainer, honestly. But that's how far we've fallen. Like Chief had said, our ancestors had to put it on walls. How
Mm-hmm.
you do this, how you have sex, how you mate, how you build a society, how you build a civilization, how to establish law. They had to paint it on walls because they knew we were gonna fall.
Right. And forget.
And forget, even though it's right on the wall. And then we got these people coming and say, "Oh, well, they were talking about the daughters ISIS and how you do this." This is some basic stuff they put on this wall. It's cool to you because you don't know, y'all just got there.
Right.
But this is basics to us, and we forgot the basics.
And that's why it's amazing, because I still get astonished when I go and I see it on those walls, and it's like I never get over it. But I just wanted to quote from the On the Way from Visions, and then it's actually is continues with what we're talking about, and I go towards the end. Yeah, it's towards the end. The my mind does not have page numbers, but anyhow, by walking that rhythm, I'm thinking about the rhythm. But what I underlined it, and as preparing for our lecture, for our talk tonight, is when we walk in rhythm. It's interesting. We are the best of what Yah makes in man, woman, and child. Okay. The reflection of that higher ideal is the closest that we can strive to obtain in this walk along the horizontal of earth. Then I read down the third paragraph. It is through the submission to the revealed will of the Elohim, that which we call vision, we are able to become more like the Elohim. Divine procreation is our ultimate goal. We walk through the darkness to transmute what we could be. We are redeemed by the light by locking our heart's desires to the single eye of the Almighty. It is our two eyes that will carry us further into the abysmal darkness, but the one eye frees us from the loss of life. And so, so from this, you know, we're able to, and this is where, like you were saying, we are redeeming. We failed. We we failed. We didn't stay down, and then you redeem yourself by getting up. And then we've gone through this cycle so many times. So now it's like, okay, I realized I realized my ancestors made a mistake. I realized, and I made mistakes. So now I want to strive at rebuilding. And so again, us and Anu, this rebuilding means that we are the physical hands and feet, the eyes, the mind, the everything, the essence, the will, the submission, the obedience. And so this is where I love it, where it was underneath, it mentions, we envision performing great works on the planet. We envision ourselves in positions of power and influence while fully rooted in our own cultural base. And this is the part I love. We foresee raising healthy, happy children who have a mating pool to choose from among their own kind and pedigree. Remember you were sharing that earlier?
I'd agree.
We visualize residing in an environment where we can sustain full cultural sovereignty. We envision empowering people to live in a victorious manner. We foresee retrieving the lost ones who have been misdirected from their connection to the kingdom of the Most High Yah. We envision cultivating a loving environment that is supporting and nurturing in every way. Our aim is to progress building the kingdom of Yah and servicing the community of Anu. And so from what Chief was sharing, that when we turn away from the world, when we turn away from the chaos, even though a lot of us was born, we didn't just fall out of the sky and we screwed up. But the thing is, once we turn away from the world and we envision the Most High striving to do what's right. And so that's the thing that I put out for those outside of Anu. Can you imagine having healthy children? Can you imagine having a healthy relationship between men and women? It's amazing to me that how most of us, men, just in the Black community alone, I've just used that. I'm not going to really, because we have the worst issue. But Black men and Black women, all this crazy chaos and fighting in each other. But can you envision where the Black man and the Black woman, in their own divine right, in their divinity, they are in harmony. They're walking in rhythm. They're at peace with one another. She's supporting his vision. He's supporting building the kingdom of Yah. They, as a family, as a unit. This is an environment. We're living in an environment where you're having there's no cancer. There's no children out of wedlock. Because why? You're building stronger, healthy families and relationships. Can we envision that? The problem is, most of us outside of Anu, and some of us still in, because we still struggle with that. Because it's not just outside Anu. Damn it, I had to redirect that question. We're all struggling that. But can you envision that? So the question is, and this is, I know there's a lot in the chat, but the question is for all of us. What are you going to do to help foresee that healthy family? What are we going to do? Can we imagine our children mating with our own? Because remember, we're building a community. We're building a kingdom. They have sovereignty. So that sovereignty means what? They don't have to worry about the police, because guess what? We have our own, we police our own. But outside of the sovereignty, outside the boundaries, they're protected. We don't have to worry about them, someone saying, well, you got to take a vaccine. In our community, we don't have that issue of misdirected health issues. We don't have that issue of improper foods.
Right.
Unhealthy character.
I'm sorry. I was just laughing because you would need a COVID vaccine to serve cancer-causing food. That's what made me laugh. Oh man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your flow.
No, because that's just it. Mm-hmm. Because we've gotten so comfortable in craziness.
Mhm.
It's amazing to me that we allow our elected officials, ministers, and elected officials, and all of them, and we know that they lie. The government, we know they lie in this. We know they lie in their asymmetrical butt off. Because I'm keeping it clean for in case some youth are in this movement.
You made me
Okay,
think
I'm good at
about it
cursing,
even
so I'm
more.
trying to keep it clean. And we know they're lying. We know they're lying, but we go along with it anyway. And it's like it's normal. Just take it. Why? Because guess what? You ain't done yet. Because a lot of people think it's over. Oh, don't worry about it. We can go back to work and we can, oh no, hell no. It's coming back. But it's going to be much powerful than the last one. But guess what? That's okay. Y'all going to line up because they did a trial and they're like, we got them. We got them. We know. And especially the chocolate ones. The chocolate one's going to be the first one lined up with their I was going to say service animal. That's not what I meant. It's so funny because that's the first thought that came in my mind. But they're going to be lined up with their government subsidies because they got to get that government stuff to pay their rent and pay their
stimulus check.
That stimulus check, because they wait for that stimulus check the first of the month. It's funny. That's why I'm like, I don't go to stores. I'm like, what the hell is going? And I'm like, oh yeah, they got their stimulus check. They got their first month's payment on that first day of the month. I'm like, damn. But anyhow, they're waiting because on the plantation it's comfortable. Just go and take it. Why not? It's safe. But we're lying. Ha ha ha. But go ahead. Go ahead and take it. Have some fun. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about that new people. They're foreigners anyway. And so, but again, going back to, can you envision a realm? Because going back to the enlightenment and transformation, can you imagine a community where you don't have that issue? Most of us can't even fathom that because one, that's in the realm, or that's in the mind of the Most High. And that's why we're here now new. We're here to what? Strive to build that. Oh, it's going to be built. Either you're here or not. It's going to be built. Regardless of the torments. I remember the flood. Yeah, they keep that flood that water is bouncing against that ark. That new ark. It's like, no, it's gonna, it's not gonna run, it's not gonna ruin this ark. It's not gonna ruin this part because guess what? We know how to sustain. We've been through this before. Because when you fall so many damn times, so after a while, for some of us, we're like, you know what? I'm tired of falling. I'm tired. I ain't doing this no more. I'm not gonna be fornicating and doing what the hell I've been doing. For some, not for all. Because, like we said, and I knew this is not for everybody. This ain't for everybody, and we are good with that. I'm good with it because I don't want everybody coming in here like, y'all got any more cheese in there? We know y'all don't have can y'all let us in? I'm sorry, Master Miller.
But it's like
you want to share.
Aki El Karal, what we were speaking about last night with it's happened before, like you were saying. It's happened before, and people have actually drafted up a plan to make sure not only does it not happen again, but so that you can acknowledge and repair all of the damage that was caused from the first time it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, like Chief always says, we're not a people of memory. We're people of strong emotion, not memory.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I gotta put stuff down. It's not like in the past where you had like a Jile or a griot who would basically orally tell the story, and pass all this information on. Everybody knows it because it's inside of them. And you ritualize that telling. Now it's just, well, I can Google it, so why would I try to remember it? All our information is being stored outside of our bodies now.
Mm-hmm.
And AI is just gobbling that right up. It can spit it out way faster than we can.
Right.
But again, you just have to be aware and walk in step and in rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
even touching on the feminine aspect too. Because remember, we're talking about saying healthy adult men and saying healthy adult women,
Right.
right? Which is like a double positive. It's adult women. Women are adults. You know, women aren't children, and um, women aren't undeveloped.
Right.
You know, womanhood is when you've reached your maturation, and you get trained for that, and you earn it. You know, through all the information and the lessons you get, just like you earn your manhood.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, so it says for the girl child, she must enter her rite of passage at the time of her first menses. Once a young girl experiences her moon time, she has taken on a new capability for the channeling of essence. A girl child should be prepared for her menses rite of passage from the time of her birth, which is important because for a lot of young girls, it's traumatizing. It's like, I'm bleeding and I don't know what's happening
Right.
because no one told them it was going to happen. An Anu daughter must learn to model the behavior of her mother and never be kept away from assisting the labor that her mother engages in. Children should always be incorporated into the work of their parents. Family dynasties are established by upholding the heritage of talent, skills, and worthiness of the family. It is the women who maintain the clock and base of family culture. Young girls need to be educated by doing the work of celebrated women in their presence. Rites of passage for the young girl must take place in the deepest part of the woodlands. The experience should be most active at night under the light of the moon. The ritual must be piloted for the girl by the mothers, aunts, grandmothers, senior sisters, senior cousins, and select community women of Anu, right? So, and the Anu men guard the participants of this experience. So now here it is. Now we have the young men who are taken into the forest and they're taught the science of manhood by
Mm-hmm.
their elders, right?
Mm-hmm.
The elder men, their fathers, grandfathers, uncles, elder cousins, and the women have a similar experience. If you have no sanity, no sane people to occupy those positions, right, or no sane people to stand as guards,
Right.
you already got a problem. Much less not even knowing that the situation should be happening in the first place, not even knowing that that's a crucial part of building your community because you have to make sure that it's inhabited by sane people who have gone through processes and rites of passage and who understand that it's their duty to help others to go through the same rites of passage,
Mm-hmm.
right? And yet here it is in this so-called civilized society. Young girls are finding out about the menses by surprise because
Right.
the adults are either too busy or feel too awkward speaking about it. Here it is now, young men are learning about sex and whether or not they should be responsible or how to be responsible about it. They're not learning it from their fathers or from their sane uncles. They're learning it from their peers who don't know anything either.
Right.
But they heard it from their sane uncles. I mean, insane uncles,
Right.
or brothers, or cousins, or other friends, right? So it's the
Mm-hmm.
like Chief would always say, whatever Western culture tells you to do the opposite.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And
So
it's
how are you
interesting.
gonna raise that?
Hmm?
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was
No,
just
no,
gonna
no.
say, how are you gonna
As
raise
you
a
were
strong
sharing
family?
about for the women,
Mm-hmm.
it made me think about at um at our last retreat, and I keep Softa Gertrude. Oh my goodness, um, Softa Gertrude and Softa Ahava
Mm-hmm.
when Little Precious and I remember it was brought up. It was brought before, and I remember watching them with Little Precious. She was with the fish. Remember, they had to catch a fish, and they were like, ah, ah, But to watch Softa, I watched. Oh my goodness, I just love watching especially the older women, and they were dealing with the younger women, and just to watch the and that was a rites of passage. just to watch the interaction and the support and the I can still visualize it. I can, as I'm sharing the story, I remember watching Softa Gertrude, and it's so funny. So after a moment with little pressure, she stopped screaming, and then when Softa was like showing how to cut, and before she cut, she was like scaling in herself, because, and then I remember when Chief was like, okay, Softa is going to show them how to do this, and so when she did it, it was just like, wow, watching that. And again, those are those sacred moments that I really appreciate. And especially when I watched Softa Gertrude, she dealt with her grandchildren. They were, oh my goodness, she handled them. So I'm like, wow, she make it look easy. But knowing full well that as a mother and as a grandmother, and how she blended with those children, and I just love seeing that. And again, going back to, like you said, if those youth did not experience that, how would their life be? Like you just shared, how would it be if they didn't have that experience about a one-on-one on how to do something, or like you just said, the menses? That alone is one pivotal part. That is a sacred moment for a young woman, but there are young women that don't properly understand that, and these are things that are needed for the young women to have some type of guidance, and then to have it supported from a elder woman that's doing it right, that's doing it and understand where they're at, because why? She was young. She never forgot. This elder woman, she never, I think of Softa Abba and Softa Gertrude, they have their moments where they were able to, love watching them as grandmothers. They were like, Softa Abba always talk about our grandchildren. But the thing is, when you cultivate that womanhood, and you cultivate the righteous part, okay, and just like you just shared, for the woman, if you don't have that, it can offset, and the imbalance comes in, and that's definitely needed. It's definitely needed. We need that more today, and especially, in Chicago, it's like, wow. I was commenting about a young girl. I think the young girl that was killed some time ago, I think she was 15, but she was killed by a 31-year-old young girl. Over what? I don't know. It was something, whatever it was dumb. But the point is, what is that 31-year-old young girl, still young?
She old.
What's crazy? Well, yeah, she's old here. Well, okay, I was being nice. Okay, but the point is,
she old.
Well, she is old, but guess what? Think about this. Look how much corruption she received, that for the rest of her life she's locked up, because why? She took a life of another young girl that was 15. I'm sorry. She took a life. And of course, that young girl who was 15 had a baby, because they mentioned that in the news too. But the point is, that was crazy. But what if things were turned? If that 31-year-old had gotten some righteous knowledge from an elder, or another woman, or her mother. Same thing with the 15-year-old. Maybe that 15-year-old, if she had gotten the right lessons and community supporting, she wouldn't have had that child at a young age. And I can imagine it's out of wedlock, because ain't no way in the world someone 15 years old, they're committed. We already know that.
This is the thing, right?
Yeah.
That. There's no one who's capable of having a child who is surprised that sex results in children. Like they get taught this stuff and they ignore it. And it's because we're so saturated. And you see how many sick things you just listed in that one scenario? Like it's like, where do I start? It's one of those things. This is a cocktail of sickness, and we wait until it comes to a head and someone dies to say, oh, that's a shame. Right. It was a shame when the little girl got pregnant. it's a shame that that 31-year-old female doesn't have a covering to say, if she had a covering, it wouldn't even gotten to the point where there would be any type of altercation or problem.
Right.
She would probably be more inclined to be teaching that young girl, not
Right.
being at odds with her. But there's so many sick things that stack up on one another. Like, by the time it actually comes to a head, like Chief had mentioned this in that deliverance segment as well. You know, so many people are good at microaggressions, and they say little slick stuff all the time. And then when you finally call them out on one of the things and say, I don't like what you just did, and they say, well, what did I do? By the time you then call them out, it's like 87 things that they did.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you name 30, they still win.
Right.
You know, they still got away with the 40, 50 plus. Because you waited too long. You didn't stop it at the moment of infraction. You know, and that's what happens when you have a society that tries to have a matriarch running the house. And if there is a male present, he's going to be moving like a mother too, or woman too. You know, he's going to be moving in a feminized space, and she's going to be moving in a masculinized space.
Right.
And they're both going to be messed up.
Right.
You know, so they're both out of rhythm internally, and thus they're mating with their sick natural counterpart. Because a feminized man can only be with a masculinized woman. You know, real woman want no feminine man.
Right.
And, you know, no real man wants a masculine woman.
Exactly.
But it's so topsy-turvy where you're being told that you have to accept the unacceptable. And when you're blatantly challenged, it's like, I don't know where to start. Well, if you don't know where to start, if you have nothing to say, then you must not be right. That just proves my point. Whatever. You know, but that's the sickness that's going on that we accept because we don't want to be the one who spoils the baby shower.
Right. Right. Especially the cake.
Yeah, a lot of hours and time and blood, sweat, and tears went into that cake. I had a caterer and got the balloons, and you don't appreciate anything. You're putting all of your effort into supporting insanity. But when someone says, let's start a family, I don't know if it's the right time. I have a lot going on in my life. I want to do my career. Baby's going to slow me down. I don't know if I want to do it. You know, I don't know. I don't want to bring no babies in the world and I ain't got no money. You know, and I'm not saying that everyone is sick is the issue. I'm not saying that I'm not exempt from that level of seasoning.
Right.
But again, when you appreciate that breath, or when you learn to appreciate that breath, you become very sickened when you see people trying to distort the naturalness of it.
Mm-hmm. And I think that people get this disillusioned thinking that, like we were saying, walking in rhythm, that though we have the Anu way, and I'm not saying this for us and Anu as well, is that we can't get it wrong, or we can't make mistakes still, or that devil in me cannot still make me deviate or be disobedient. No, that is always present.
I think you're more vulnerable.
Yeah.
When you get tools.
Yeah.
Because
you're more attacked. Exactly.
Exactly. Like you were saying earlier, you let your guard down.
Yeah,
you let your guard down.
You let your guard down. You're like, how the hell he sneak in? Well, he got a key, like you got a key. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, you gave him the key to get in. So now, there you go. But like I said, I can never let my guard down. I can never think, oh, I got it now. No, as long as I'm breathing, as long as I'm alive, as long as I'm in this physical form, the challenges are going to be greater. And of course, the more you obtain, the more you strive, the more you work on, staying in rhythm, the more you're going to get attacked. The more you're going to go through the channels of of them trying to maneuver and to get in because they're there.
Mm-hmm.
It's never going to change. It's not. Yes, it's going to get hard. It can get more challenging. That's why it's never a moment where we like you said, put our guard down. No, by all
Mm-hmm.
means, no. You're always going to get attacked. And I think that's another thing that some people think that, oh yeah, well you guys, I knew you guys got it perfect. No, we don't. We all strive. If you think that, any of us in I knew, if we think that, oh, you already lost. You already
Mm-hmm.
lost. Matter of fact, good. You just there you go. That tip of the heart, the scale.
Right. Because that it's like Kevin Spacey and Usual Suspects, and it's like the what is it? The greatest lie that the greatest trick that the devil ever pulled off is to convince the world that it didn't exist. You know, and your ego is there. Don't
Mm-hmm.
listen to these spiritual gurus with all
Right.
the incense burning. Or you have to eliminate your ego. It's gonna be there, you
Right.
know. And the trick is to always keep your ego in check, not to act like it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's how you get into trouble too, because you start to believe that you could never be off your rhythm.
Right.
You can never be off your game. Even Austin Powers had his mojo stolen. Like everybody has an off day. Everybody has an off day. So you gotta always be on your guard, especially as men, because we're the
Mm-hmm.
gatekeepers, you know. And you can see that women, real women, are the guardians of base culture, you know. So the principles of your culture, the women keep that. They're
Mm-hmm.
not the ones trying to sneak off and break it or bend it. They're the ones who are actually trying to uphold it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, more so than the men. Because who has more success in school?
It's,
Girls.
yeah. Yeah.
Girls have more success in school because they're the ones who are actually doing what they're told to do. The boys are doing their own thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Skipping skipping
Skipping
class and
class.
you know doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But like the girls, they always stay on it. They get
Mm,
the
right.
A plus, A B.
And they're doing the boys' homework for them.
Right. I had to
Yeah.
admit, when I was in high school, people don't believe me when I tell them this. I told my brother this. I was mostly a C student in high school. Now, the reason I maintained the C, I mean, some classes I might have got an A or B, but I was playing soccer and I wanted to play sports. And so in
Mm,
order to do that, you have to maintain a C average. And
mm.
so I always made sure, but they were like, no, you didn't. No, you had at least an A. I'm like, no. In high school, no, I did not. I was not an A student. No, I can tell you. My brother was like, swear up and down because I remember getting on him. I was very strict, but he thinking I had again, some people will look at you and think you got your stuff in pack. I was like, no, I'm still striving. No, I'm just passing. But of course, as you get older, you like, no, I can't pass no more. I gotta excel, be above and beyond. I can't just pass the grade just to pass it with a D. And the average, most people that's a D, I guess. No, can't do that anymore. You gotta strive higher. You don't have
So
the
hold on.
luxury of
Did you ever raise
just
your
passing.
grades?
Huh?
Did you ever raise your grades?
There, what now?
Raise your grades beyond a C.
In high school, I didn't.
What about in college?
College, yeah, C and B. Yeah, no, C and B, I would say. Now, it wasn't until I will tell you where it got better. When I started learning like medicine and learning about culture, that's when it got interesting to me.
Mm,
Because I that's why I was having a hard time assimilating the curriculum. Because one, it was not about my culture. So I don't regret that. Now, once I started learning knowledge and learning, like I got booked, like then yeah, I always looked forward to because I was interested, and it was about my culture. It was about something. It made sense. It's like okay, I understand. Like I said, I grew in a house. I grew up in a household of doctors. I didn't want to be like my um uncles and cousins and dad. I didn't want to be like that because I always thought regular doctors were, and they're good doctors out there, but not what I saw. Not what I saw. So I always looked to striving beyond that. And so that's where when I became a naturopath, and then I had the teachers with that, it's like it became more interesting. So yeah, then I maintained the A and the B average because it was something that interested me. It was alignment, and at the time I didn't know that. I didn't know it was part of culture, but it made sense because for me, health was about living, again, about this rhythm. It's about just like spirituality. I was always, now I did well in spirituality. That was not a problem. It was just that anything it had to have a reason, a purpose. It had to make sense to me. And so when, like example, striving to do your best, striving to be righteous, I've always looked forward to that. I was always excited about that. But then, of course, when things change, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know. When I started from religions, then I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know that. But once again, the learning keeps growing. You keep developing. It doesn't end. And so that's where I'm excited about it. Even to this day, I'm excited about the health because it's never a dull moment. It's always something. You're always learning something. It's always striving. It's not something that like you said, it's the end. Every day is something learning. And then again, the application of it, because now you're applying to live healthy, but also then I realized learning to be healthy was not just physical. We forget the spiritual health, our minds, our thoughts, our actions. Then your actions have to match your words. It has to match your action. It has to match your thoughts.
Right. And that's approaching it
with your vibration. I think of a frequency like a radio station. If you don't have that, now of course everybody don't listen to radio stations that much anymore. But when if you have a specific station and it's on a frequency, in order for us to all have that radio station, we have to tune into that frequency. So I look at that with the rhythm is I always wanted to be in tune and have that same frequency of the Most High. And the more I strive and desire and cultivate that, the more excited I get. The more I desire it, the more I'm like, wow, that's what. And so when you're building that and you're developing that, it makes sense. And then that also goes back to health, because now when you're walking in rhythm, you can't. I remember I look back at the things I had to let go. Because why? The frequency, the higher as you keep growing in that frequency, you can't continue to what you might have did it last year or 2 years or 5 years ago. There's a different frequency now. It's a different rhythm.
Right.
Can you keep up with it? Can you keep up with that rhythm? Because if you don't, you're not going to be able to reach. And so that's another thing. So and that's all pertains to what we were sharing about striving and
right.
What is the main goal? What is your purpose? What are you pushing? What are you striving for?
That's the thing too. That's one of the things I was wondering about when you're talking about the school thing, because like Akiel Karai brought up previously, going through different levels of schooling, or education, I should say, or rites of passage throughout every stage of your life, and it not ending at 18, like you had touched on just now, once again. It's constantly. So I wanted to know, because I was not interested when I was in school. I became more interested once I started using stuff. Once I started applying things, and like I was doing my own research on stuff that had nothing to do with what we were learning about in school. So yeah, I want to get to the chat, and we got to wrap this up. By the time we get through the chat, it's gonna be 3 hours.
Oh, okay.
We left off at the booty stairs. So yeah, let me see.
Yeah, I see what the Unity Mandela put in the chat. With unprepared and accident childbirth, men have the first choice. As we hold the seed of life, the woman has the first choice when choosing to keep a child. Many men will feel helpless. Yahweh puts consciousness of Yah resides in our hearts. It's the Anu way. Unity Mandela, forgetting they had the first choice. Okay. And Aki Zach put, as Chief has said before, and Unity Mandela, you better you better be careful of the seed you fertilize. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
yeah, yeah.
I've seen that a lot of people. That's if anything, that scares me. That's why I'm glad. Oh yeah. But anyhow, Aki Zach put, um, you will have a foot put on your chest, man up. Okay, and then
Mm-hmm.
Chief put in the chat 8 forms of childbirth for me to women to women's 16 forms. Females have a
Oh, it's
lot,
birth control.
huh?
No, it's birth control.
Right. 8 forms of birth control for me to women's 18 forms. Females have a lot of input on that first choice as well. Some might say even more input than the male. Yeah, that's true. Akizak put, as the saying goes, if it if it if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Yeah. Akizak put also, no, he is a jive turkey and bust that thing wide open like they know he is a king. Bring the childbirth and become a victim. Ah, yep. Akizak also put, you have to flow with the rhythm though. Row, row your boat gently down the stream. Akizak also put, the greater self-preservation is group preservation. Yep. When I'm just reading out what Akizak put down in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Where attention goes, energy flows. Where one is in that community, they don't need to feed that parasite. Yep. Gas tank on E, but all drinks on me. Wipe me down. Wow, Akizak put a lot of stuff in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna scroll down what
Yeah.
Akoti Yafi put. What qualifies a man woman was one of the first sabbath builds. Yep.
Yeah.
She put in the chat. The reality is the best introduction a young man could have about sex is from his mother, who better to tell him how to relate to a woman. You know what, Chief? You're actually right, because of course my mom didn't tell me because she was young. She was 15. But anyhow, my great grandmother, her grandmother taught me. She always taught me that don't disrespect women. You know, she did give me some early lessons, and I still remember that to this day. Aki Zach put, these young grasshoppers had those gloves on, and the sand and Softa came in with she was talking about the fish with Softa.
Yeah.
Softa came in with the bare hands. Yep, I remember that, and said, you have to grab this thing, baby. You know what? I remember that. I do remember when Softa did that, because she had Little Precious had those gloves on. She made her take those gloves off, and then let's see. Dang it, I just lost. Okay, I got you. She put, yes, that picture. He's talking about Softa Gertrude. Yes, that picture I have of them working with the fish was my favorite few shots from the entire retreat. It was an affirming moment. Yes, it was. I'll never forget that moment. Zach put grown. Okay, 15. Yeah, it was. There were 2 women.
Yeah.
One was 15 and the other one was 31. Yes, they're old. Chief put in chat, many young girls want children at the right age when they are capable of producing the healthiest child, but that biological drive is not supported by a sane tribal culture and community. Mm-hmm. And then Akizak put stuff in the chat. Get you a good job and do your own thing, girl. Yeah, that's what these young girls talk about now.
Then you ain't gotta reply. Then you ain't gotta rely on no man.
No, not anymore. Akizak put also, but was you? I'm sorry.
Question. That was a good question.
Yeah, that was.
No, I mean right now. But was you cold on that soccer field though?
Was I cold
about playing soccer?
You know what? No, I wasn't cold on that soccer field because I was always moving. So we played soccer in the snow. Yes, I remember it. And I was cold a little bit if I stood still, but I never stood still. I was a midfielder. So I was always running. What you saw me on the soccer field is what you see me today. I was always doing that. Okay, so yeah, he was talking about soccer field. Like I said, that's a no. Then you got Chief. Chief put, man, D is for diploma degree. You're right, Chief, because the way I look at it, I look back, when I was 3rd grade, 4th grade, I was cool, because that's when I first went to grade school. I was homeschooled by my great grandmother, up into 3rd grade, and I was transitioning to that. But after that, once I went into junior high and high school, oh my God, I just was terrified. Akizak put, you ain't never lied. Okay. I don't know what that was about, but my motto, Akizak put also, my motto in school was, it's better to cheat than repeat. You know what? I can answer that. I'm gonna tell you something. It's funny you put that in the chat. Now I can put this out here. You know what? Should I put that out there? Hell yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna put it out there. Hell yeah. In high school, I was supposed to, I was passing all my classes. And my English teacher, he was a minister, and I ain't gonna mention his name. He's retarded, but for him, grow. But anyhow, he was gonna fail me because of a poem, which I have that poem to this day. And so what I did was, I forged his name, because what happened at that time, you had to make sure you get a teacher's name and you forward it. So yeah, I told my son this story, so I can tell it. I don't give a damn. It's hell. What you gonna do? Take my diploma back? But anyhow, I forged his damn name, and guess what? I passed. Cause you know why? One, it didn't make no damn sense anyway to fail me, and he's an idiot because he didn't like me anyway. And I seen him like last year, and I'll tell him now. Oh, by the way, thank you, because I passed anyway. I got my damn diploma. But anyhow, yeah, I did it. I can admit it, and I don't have no shame in it. You know why? Because damn it, this system sucks anyway. Okay, so anyhow, but yeah, I did that one time, and hey,
I cheated a lot. I didn't know one time cheat.
well, that was one I cheated because you know what? He was wrong. He was gonna fail me over a poem, which was a good poem. One day I'll share it with you, and I remember it was a good poem though. But the point is, it didn't matter. I was passing everything else. But anyhow, so yeah, to answer Akizak's question, yeah, I did that one time. I didn't really cheat in school because other than that time, and that was high school, by the way. That was high school. Chief put, spirituality is easy because it is not a hard choice. I'm sorry, a hard science. That's why so many people prefer it to morality and law. Yeah, interesting. Akizak put, I wasn't excited to always do my best. I had my days. That's for dang sure. Yep. And the only reason I made it through high school, because I really hated it, is because of sports and my I had art. I took all the art classes. I was in art class, architectural, wood shop. I love wood shop, and I took all the classes, and that's why I made it. If it wasn't for that stuff, oh hell no. To this day, if I had to go back to school, I would fail. I would literally fail. And I told my son that. I said, no, I would have failed. Let's see. Akizet put, let's see. Yeah. They say I was spiritual, and the Most High knows my heart.
Right. That was related to Chief's earlier comment.
Huh?
That was related to Chief's earlier comment about how people prefer spirituality to morality and law. And then Zach said, then they would say, I'm spiritual, and the Most High knows my heart.
And Chief put in the chat, the fool says in his heart, there is no Elohim. Yep. And it's producing their actions because they're living it. Akizak, they're trying to get me out of here now. Okay.
They're trying to get out of here now. Oh, you talking about the spaceships? Akizak? Trying to get
is that what he's talking about?
Maybe. Yeah,
okay.
he'll put it in the chat.
Okay. Akizak also puts, let's see if you read me. You can read me too. Huh? I missed that one. And then Chief put, this has turned into a episode of First 48.
Yeah, I did it. I do it again.
Oh, that's good one, Chief. That was a good one. That, that is a good one. Oh boy, oh boy, that's a good one. Chief, you got me there. You got me there with that. You know what? That's a good one. Yahweh put, I'm just trying to keep up, but this is a great build. But everybody's anyway, brothers, okay? And Zach put, okay, Zach is laughing too. That was a good one, Chief. First 48 hours. Because you know the first 48 hours, we're taking it. This is actually the first 128 hours. Because we went beyond 48 hours, you know. So
I
we had
think
fun,
he's talking
you know?
about all of these crimes we admitting to.
Huh?
I think he talking about all these crimes we admitting to, snitching on ourselves, how we is committing forgery and fraud and cheating. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. If I had to go through it again, I would have done it again. I would have done it again with his class. Yes. Yes. But you know what? I was scary. I was scared. That's why I didn't do it. When I did it, I was scared.
Did you do it or didn't you do it? You did it, right?
I did it.
Yeah, rites of passage. You're scared of doing something, you did it anyway.
Exactly.
Someone was bullying you.
But so yeah, you know, we that's Chief put
Seymour beat.
But no, you know, it's life's a journey. And you know, it's how you want to live it.
Yeah, and we get these tools too.
Huh?
We got these tools to live it right.
Yeah. There's no excuse. See, that's another thing. And this is for us in Anu. If we got the tools, Chief has got so many segments that go back to 1955. I mean, I'm just joking, but they go back. And you can learn from them. There is no excuse why we should not. To me, there's no excuse. There's no excuse of why you're not applying it, other than not growing. Chief put in chat, I want to hear that poem. Oh, wow.
I think it's both.
I have, see, the problem is I got
10 bucks says it's both.
I'll put it in the post because I got to find it. I still have it, though. I still have it, but it's a good one. It's a good one, but it's downstairs, and so I will get it, and I will put it to share it. But it actually is, and it's actually a life-changing one. But I got it in my head once I get it going, because after I graduated, I did memorize the poem.
Did you go to?
I did memorize it.
What kind of high school did you go to? Was this like a Catholic school?
No, Thornridge. It's a public school.
A public school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Public school. I did go to
so just that teacher was
I went to Catholic school later on in college and stuff.
Okay. So just that one teacher was a minister.
Yeah, he was a Protestant minister. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He you know, he's like most ministers, you know, Reverend Pigfeet, you know, they all the same. Most of them are they you know, they give you misguided information, and then when you question them, then they're like, you know, now it's like you just said, you know, it's funny. Well, God knows my heart. Yeah. Yeah. That's why it's corrupt. Grow. You know, I just think of Chief when he says that, you know, that's what I tell him today, but it would go over his head. But I'm gonna leave him alone because he's probably 155 years old anyway, so I'm gonna leave him alone. I ain't gonna mess with him. It don't matter. I don't care. I really don't care what about him anyway, so it doesn't matter to me, you know. So you like relaxing, Master Menyelek. It's like you know.
Yeah, I'm chilling.
We're enjoying this moment.
I'm Shabbatin.
What'd you say?
I'm Shabbatin.
You Shabbat? Yeah. This is what we do in Shabbat. You know, we're sharing. Koti Yafe put, this is about to be red light fellowship. Yeah, and also since you said red light, we don't do no. What is that? Those drinks that everyone drinks now.
It's getting late.
Red. Huh?
It's getting late.
Those drinks that keep the caffeinated and everything. Yafe, come on now. You know what I'm talking about. Because I know she probably had one. I know Aquia probably has one to keep her up with her studying.
What are you talking about? Espressos? Like, you know.
No. Those energy drinks. Those energy drinks. Those,
What do you mean, Monster?
huh?
Red Bull?
Red Bull. There you go. There
Okay.
you go. I don't even see. I don't know. I don't drink it. I see everybody drinks that now. That's a big. I can't.
The
You
worst
see
game
how
of
hyper I
charades
am?
ever.
Could you imagine me drinking Red Bull and as hyper I am? Yeah. I should say not me.
Nah,
Not
you
me. I don't
probably
need Red Bull.
spontaneously combust. Like we don't need that right now.
Nah.
Set that couch on fire.
Nah. I'm just messing with you, Emma Queer. I'm just messing with you.
Yeah.
I know you don't drink that.
Well, before we close out,
Yes.
I concur with Akiza. I'd like to give a shout out to Seymour Butts. Seymour B.
Wait a minute. You give a shout out to who now?
Seymour B. Seymour Butts.
Okay.
No,
Y'all
but
went over my head because I don't know what that means.
You and that myotic feather trying to talk to Anpu about all these butts you've been staring at. Yeah, that's what we dedicating this to.
Oh, okay. Because it went over my head. I don't know everything. I'm still learning.
It's late. It's late, man.
Yeah. But we give thanks for everyone hanging with us and fellowshipping. As always, we Master Menyelek, he makes it easy, right? Because he's been doing this a long time. He makes it easy. So
I don't know nothing easy about it.
I know. I said I just shared. You make it easy.
Make it look easy.
There you go. Make it look easy.
I don't even know how easy it looks.
But it's a lot of work. Like you said, it's a lot of work putting into it. But we give thanks, to our Chief Jack, the Chief Yuya Herut Anu, and him putting the material, because guess what?
Mm-hmm.
Without him and without all of this that we get, none of this is possible. And so we give thanks to the Most High, because oh my God, Chief, still about that poem? I promise, Chief, I will get the poem. I'll get the poem. I didn't want to break it out and then go find it and then leave Master Menyelek here. So I will get the poem. I will.
This poet was, and I'm black, y'all. I'm black, y'all. I'm blackity black, and I'm black, y'all. The end. Everybody start snapping. Oh man.
But give thanks. Give thanks for this moment.
Give thanks for the build for sure, Abba Herut. Give thanks always, Chief Yuya, for all the material that that you put out for us to pull from and grow, and dive deeper and deeper into this knowledge and this culture in general, and just cultivating us internally, and being able to restore that balance that people are just aggressively doing their damnedest to distort and tell people to be anything other than what their creator made them to be.
Anything short of that, you're short of yourself. So aim high, as it say, aim high. So I give thanks.
Yeah, definitely. Give thanks. Peace, everyone. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Peace.